The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76. For people in the underworld, why should they hide their heads and show their tails? If the system had a pretense value, Jun Changxiao's words would surely add a lot. Unfortunately, there is no such thing. The elder of the Dahenman who was sitting next to him twitched his mouth when he heard him say, "I'm really disappointed." Although he was pretending, his disciples took the top 4 places, so he had the capital to pretend. Especially when he thought that he had just sat on the high platform and thought that the disciples of the Tegu sect were stepping stones for his own disciples to advance. His face suddenly became hot. Sorry. All the contestants who participated in the sect competition were stepping stones for the disciples of the Tegu sect. The most tragic thing at this time was naturally the elders and direct descendants of the Xiao family, because Xiao Zuji, who was regarded as a waste, won the championship of the sect competition. The expelled direct descendant won the championship of this sect competition. The Xiao family probably never dreamed of it. At this time, they should be regretting it. Xiao Zuji's story tells us that, even if a genius falls, there is still a possibility of making a comeback. This is really 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. The elder of the Xiao family heard the discussion of the crowd clearly, and his blood was boiling, and his hands were shaking violently. If it weren't for Jun Changxiao holding a gun, he might really rush down and kill Xiao Zuji on the spot. Ahem. The Lord of Liang City appeared on the central fighting stage and announced loudly, "This sect competition is over, and the champion is Xiao Zuji of the Iron Bone Sect." Then, in full view of the crowd, he handed Xiao Zuji a common high-level martial arts and 10 things similar to crystal cores. Spirit Stone. Jun Changxiao murmured. In the memory of the original owner, he learned that there was a kind of stone in the Xinjiang continent that contained magnificent spiritual power and could be used directly for cultivation. It was called a spirit stone. Spiritual stones can be mined from mineral veins or refined by spiritual masters using crystal cores. In terms of silver, one can only be bought for 10,000 taels, which is extremely precious. TSK. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, "I didn't expect that winning the sect martial arts competition championship would give me martial arts spirit stones as rewards. The system said otherwise. Who would participate? It made sense, and I was speechless." Envied by many warriors, Xiao Zuji took the secret book and spirit stones and returned to the venue with his brothers. Jun Changxiao arrived first and said with a smile, "My dears, you have worked hard." Everyone's mouths twitched and goosebumps broke out. Jun Changxiao put his hand on Xiao Zuji's shoulder, took the secret book and spirit stones, and said, "To celebrate my sect's victory in the sect martial arts competition, I decided to take you to the best restaurant for a meal. I want to drink." Shanqi said, "Let's go." Many warriors who watched the battle left one after another. When they saw Jun Changxiao coming out with his disciples, the contempt in their eyes was replaced by awe. In a world where martial arts are respected, fists speak. 5 disciples directly took the top 4 places and used their fists to tell them not to underestimate the Tegu sect, which is only of the 9th rank. Damn it. The elders of the Xiao family who walked out of another entrance looked at the Tegu disciples who left with a swagger, and their eyes were all flashing with anger. Just at this time, a family elder passed by, bowed and smiled. "Congratulations to the Xiao family for winning the championship of the sect martial arts competition." "Oh." He patted his forehead and said, I forgot. Xiao Zuji has been expelled by you, and he is no longer a direct descendant of the Xiao family 5 years ago." An elder of the Xiao family said angrily, "Song Shizun, you are so weird. Do you want to fight?" The other elders frowned. They were already irritable, and this guy deliberately provoked everyone. They must not be able to stand it. "I just said it casually. Don't mind. Song Shizun achieved his goal and bowed and said goodbye. When he came to the crowd in front, someone joked, "Elder Song, the Xiao family is very upset now. Isn't that just rubbing salt into the wound?" Song Shizun sighed, "Oh, I really forgot." Speaking of which, Zyuozuji has shaped his body so horribly in the past 5 years. It's really a bad move for the Zyuo family to expel him. In my opinion, when the news of Zyuozuji's victory spreads, the Zyuo family will be laughed at again. The senior leaders of each family completely ignored the feelings of the Zyuo family and talked as they walked. Damn it. The elders of the Zyuo family were furious. The eldest elder of the Zyuo family, who had never spoken, looked at the direction where Zyuozuji left, his eyes gloomy and uncertain, and finally flashed with a creepy murderous intent. 5 years ago, that woman came to regret the marriage, and the Zyuo family became a laughingstock. 5 years later, he won the sect martial arts championship, and the Zyuo family is bound to be laughed at again. This cannot be tolerated. Absolutely cannot be tolerated. Come on. In the private room of the most luxurious restaurant in Liang City, Jun Changxiao held the bowl and said, "Let's drink it." As he said that, he tilted his head back and drank the wine and the bowl clean. Li Qingyang, Suzaomo, Shanqi and Zyuozuji all drank the bowl of wine to the bottom. Lu Kai and Qian did not drink, but ate the dishes quietly. Oh my god. What kind of dish is so bad? It's nothing compared to what Dudu made. After being used to the food cooked by Liu Wanshi, eating the food cooked by these ordinary chefs felt like eating coarse grains, which were hard to swallow. Oh. My mouth has become picky. Shanqi raised the bowl and said, "If there is no leader, I, Shanqi, am just a medicinal material in their eyes. This bowl of wine, I will drink it first as a respect." As he said that, he drank the whole bowl of wine. The disciple won the championship, made the Tegu sect proud, and completed the epic task. Jun Changxiao was in a good mood, so he also raised the bowl and drank it all. Suzaomo then raised her bowl and grinned. If there was no master, I, Suzaomo, would probably still be an outer disciple of another sect. This bowl of wine, I toast you. Jun Changxiao curled his lips and said, "You are trying to get me drunk." Just after he and Suzaomo finished a bowl of wine, Li Qingyang stood up and said, "I'm very fortunate to have met the master, joined the Tegu sect, and become a fellow disciple with you. This bowl of wine is for the master, and also for my senior sister and junior brother." As expected of someone who came from a family, he spoke in a set way. "Drink." Jun Changxiao raised his wine, as if he would not refuse anyone. The senior brothers had all toasted, and Zyuozuji also stood up and said, "Master, I'm not good at talking. I don't know what to say. This bowl of wine is for you." Gulp, gulp. He tilted his neck and drank the wine in the bowl. His whole face suddenly turned red. It seems that he can't handle the alcohol. A bunch of idiots. Lu Kai and Qian said lightly. The group drank for more than an hour in the restaurant and drank 2 jars of wine. The 5 of them were also drunk. Perhaps the long-term depression was released in the sect competition. The drunk Zyuozuji hugged the empty wine jar and cried like a child. Jun Changxiao stayed in Liang City for one night. The next day, after waking up from the alcohol, he took 5 disciples back. Walking on the street, the warriors who had previously laughed and despised had already changed their faces. Waste. Trash sect? After sweeping the top 4 in the sect competition, it no longer exists. Jun Changxiao walked on the street with his head held high and finally led his disciples out of the city in front of everyone. But, after walking for dozens of miles and out of the territory of Liang City, there was a figure moving in the dark bushes. Lu Kai and Qian and Li Qingyang discovered it, and they both put their hands on the hilt of the sword at the same time, ready to draw the sword at any time. Heh. Jun Changxiao put his hands behind his back and said calmly, "Why do people in the martial arts world hide their heads and show their tails?" Swish. Swish. In an instant, dozens of men in black rushed out from the bushes and surrounded them, their eyes flashing with anger and murderous intent. Jun Changxiao thought to himself, the family's direct line was abused, and they came to take revenge so quickly. The villains are stupid enough to do this. If I were the protagonist of a novel, readers would definitely think that I have an aura that lowers our IQ. Chapter 77. Don't be merciful. More than a dozen men in black covered their faces and could not see their appearance clearly, but after jumping out, they glanced at Zyuozuji intentionally or unintentionally, and the murderous intent suddenly became stronger. Jun Changxiao caught it, so he could think with his toes that these people were either from the Zhao family of Liang City or the Bei family. He was more inclined to believe that the people who came were from the Zhao family. After all, it was a very cruel blow for the direct descendants who were expelled to win the championship at their doorstep, and it was normal for them to do irrational things. Damn it. Jun Changxiao thought to himself, such a good opportunity, why is there no side quest? Kill. The leading man in black said in a deep voice. Swish. Swish. More than a dozen men in black sacrificed their swords, and their martial arts level cultivation burst out, pouring spiritual power into them, and killing from different directions. Judging from the strength of their attacks, it was obvious that they wanted to take lives. Clang. Clang. Lu Kai and Qian and Li Qingyang drew out their swords, and intercepted the 4 men in black who attacked from the left and right respectively. The weapons collided, and the golden starlight flashed suddenly. Although the two were only first-class martial artists, they poured spiritual power into their weapons, and fought against 2 martial artists respectively, and they were not at a disadvantage. Suzaomo took out the wooden sword, and protected the head of the sect. Xiao Zuji and Shanqi had no weapons, so they could only lean against each other, with a solemn look in their eyes. In the sect competition, they performed very strongly. But in front of the black-clothed men, who were equipped with weapons, and were all martial artists, relying on their physical bodies and spiritual power alone was obviously not enough. Isn't there a saying, that no matter how high your martial arts skills are, you are afraid of kitchen knives? Ding. The host consumed 30 contribution points, and obtained 3 first-class cold swords, which have been transferred to the space ring. Ding. School contribution value. 282 over 500. Next, Jun Changxiao waved his hand and threw 3 first-class cold swords over. Snap. Suzaomo grabbed it first, feeling the coolness from the hilt, and his eyes suddenly showed a strong desire to fight. Kill. He drew the sword out of the sheath, stepped forward with his legs, and faced a black-clothed man who was attacking. Shanqi followed closely behind, and drew his sword to stop the black-clothed man who was coming from another direction. Although the 2 of them only opened their meridians at the 12th level, they were able to fight their opponents without losing the upper hand with the blessing of the first great cold sword. At this moment, the quality of the weapon was important. The 6 black-clothed men who were entangled had their eyes flashing with disbelief. Obviously, they did not expect that the disciples of the Tigu school would be so strong. There were 12 attackers in total. Although Lu Kai and Qian and the other 4 held back 6, there were still 6 left. They came around from behind, and their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Swish. The sword flashed with cold light and stabbed fiercely. Xiao Zuji, who had always turned his back to the black-clothed man, suddenly turned around, drew his sword, and slashed with both hands. This speed is the best proof of the ultimate muscle strengthening. Bang. The cold sword without spiritual power slashed on the black-clothed man's sword that attacked first, but with a click, the opponent's sword broke on the spot, and half of the sword tip was nailed to the tree. The black-clothed man was dumbfounded. Although his weapon was only of low grade and high level, it was infused with spiritual power and its strength was comparable to that of ordinary weapons. However, it was cut off by a sword. Swish. While he was confused, Xiao Zuji kicked him in the left face, and kicked him out fiercely. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, Zuji, you should treat the person who kills you like me. Swish. Turning around, he stepped out, and the first grade cold sword was unsheathed. A sword light flashed out, and he said, don't have any mercy. Puff. The black-clothed man who attacked him suddenly stopped on the ground. He lowered his head stiffly, and there was a slanted sword mark on his chest, and blood spurted out like rain. The sword mark was deep and long, reaching the vital point. Puff. The black-clothed man collapsed to the ground, and his thoughts gradually disappeared with the blood flowing. A martial artist, killed with a sword. This is the strength of Jun Changxiao, after breaking through the 5th grade martial artist. Flirtatious and awesome. When Xiao Zuji saw the headmaster take action and decisively kill one person, his eyes were filled with shock. Oh my god. Suzaomo, who was struggling with her opponent, looked back and said in surprise, the headmaster is so tough. The headmaster is a martial arts apprentice? Li Qingyang was shocked. He clearly remembered that when facing the free and easy swordsman before, The headmaster's strength was only the 11th level of opening meridians. Liu Kai and Qian used the mysterious swordsmanship to force back the two men in black, and thought to herself, it turns out that he has been hiding his strength. Witnessing their companions being killed, the four men in black who were attacking from behind were furious and rushed towards Jun Changxiao. Headmaster Jun took back his sword, turned around and said, "Do you understand?" "I understand." Xiao Zuji's eyes turned cold, and he clenched the hilt of the sword with both hands, bursting out all his muscle strength, and directly slashed at a man in black who attacked the headmaster. Bang! The powerful and heavy cold sword slammed into the sword of the warrior, and cut it off again. Swish! Xiao Zuji swung his arms, and the cold sword swept along the broken sword with great force. With a sound of puff, blood splashed. Thump, thump, thump. The man in black retreated more than 10 steps, covering his neck with one hand. His eyes filled with despair, and the luster in his pupils gradually faded. He knelt on the ground with a plop and slowly lowered his head. Another companion was killed, and the other 3 were horrified. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they rushed over like crazy. Xiao Zuji came quickly, and swung his sword. Although he had no spiritual power, he stimulated the power of his flesh, and combined with the first great cold sword. With one sword, he dragged out a residual image. The man in black who attacked first felt a chill in his heart, and could only be forced to raise the sword he stabbed, and choose to block. Bang! Catcher! The sword was cut off. The cold sword's power was still there, and it slashed fiercely on his left shoulder, directly cutting off his left arm. Die! Just at this moment, the other 2 men in black came forward with swords. Spiritual power poured into them, and the tips of their swords flashed with sharp luster. Not good. Xiao Zuji's face changed. At this time, he just swung his sword, and chopped it down. Without the support of spiritual power and body skills, it was too late to dodge. Swish, swish. 2 sword lights flashed in his vision, exuding a chill. Then, Xiao Zuji saw blood splashing out, like a blooming rose. Plop, plop. The 2 men in black who attacked, fell straight to the ground, leaving a slight sword mark on their Adam's apple. The master sword is so fast. Xiao Zuji said in surprise. Jun Changxiao retracted his sword and said lightly, "If you want to kill my disciples of the Strongest Sect, you must be prepared to die in advance." Puff. Just at this moment, a man in black failed to dodge, and was pierced through the heart by Liu Kai and Qian's sharp sword. After killing someone, she drew her sword without blinking, stepped on a graceful footwork, appeared in front of another warrior, and pierced his chest again with a cold speed. Puff. The 2 men in black fell to the ground. Puff. Li Qingyang also relied on the 9-style Dilang sword to injure a man in black. In a short period of time, 6 of the 12 men in black died, and 3 were injured. The remaining 3 men in black finally realized that their opponents were too strong, so they could only try their best to force them back, and then tacitly flew towards the bushes. The speed was very fast. Li Qingyang, Su Xiaomo and the other 2 were a step late, and it was a bit difficult to catch up. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, 3 gunshots like firecrackers rang out, startling the birds in the mountains and forests. The 3 men in black who escaped had walnut-sized holes on their backs and fell to the ground with horror. Jun Changxiao took back his gun, blew away the smoke from the muzzle, and said in a cold voice, "If you dare to mess with my Strongest Sect, don't go back alive." Li Qingyang and others, whose ears were buzzing, twitched their mouths and said, "The leader's gun is simply too scary." P.S. Thanks to Xiaoxiao Xiang K, yeah. 181 asterisk 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 38 for the reward. Please vote for recommendation. Chapter 78 Night Emperor. Jun Changxiao, who had broken through to the 5th grade martial arts apprentice, fired 3 shots in a row, not only hitting all of them, but also his hand holding the gun did not feel numb. This shows that he has ignored the recoil brought by the Desert Eagle. Seeing the headmaster shooting again, and in the blink of an eye, killing 3 black-clothed men who fled more than 20 meters away, Li Qingyang and others were deeply shocked. Take down the injured. Jun Changxiao sat on the tree roots next to him and said, "I want to see who dares to assassinate my Iron Bone Sect in broad daylight." Yes. The disciples received the order and walked towards several injured black-clothed men and found that they were all lying on the ground and they had no breath at all. Li Qingyang frowned and said, "Master, they are all dead." "What?" Jun Changxiao hurried over, took off the black scarf, and found that his lips were black. He instantly realized that there should be poison in his mouth. "Zuji, do you know these people?" Xiao Zuji came over, carefully examined the dead black-clothed men, shook his head and said, "Master, I don't know them." "Don't know?" Jun Changxiao was stunned. At first, he was still very arrogant and guessed that the visitor would be from the Xiao family. Was he going to be slapped in the face? Li Qingyang squatted down and searched a waist badge from the body of man in black and said, "Master, it is engraved with the word berry. Could it be someone from the berry family?" Xiao Zuji held his chin and said, "I have heard that the berry family has a group of assassins." Su Xiaomo rushed to say, "Needless to say, the berry family must be angry that my junior brother abused Berry Jian, so they sent assassins to kill us." Pa. Jun Changxiao flicked his head and said, "Your assassins are carrying waist badges that reveal their identities when they go out?" Su Xiaomo covered her head and grinned. Li Qingyang said, "Master, do you mean that someone deliberately framed the Berry family?" Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "The assassins may not be able to do this method of biting poison to commit suicide. Maybe it's killer." Li Qingyang said. Jun Changxiao patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Not bad, not bad. You have been with me for nothing." Li Qingyang said solemnly, "Before, in the sect, there were also assassins who came to assassinate the leader. Could it be related to Iron Bone Sect? It's hard to say." Jun Changxiao was not sure. He now has two inferences. These black-clothed men who look like assassins may be the Xiao family pretending to be the Berry family, or they may really be related to Iron Bone Sect. Search and see if they have space rings on them, Jun Changxiao said. Li Qingyang and the other four took action. Not to mention space rings, they didn't even find a teal of silver. They were so poor. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "Pile these bodies together and burn them." Yes. Everyone pulled all the bodies over. Su Xiaomo picked up a branch on the ground, sharpened it into a pointed shape, and began to rub it on the dead wood. Drilling wood to make fire? This is too primitive. Jun Changxiao shook his head, raised his hand gently, and a ball of exquisite fire spurted out, instantly igniting the body. Watching the flames rise instantly, Li Qingyang, Su Xiaomo and others opened their mouths. Lu Qian was surprised and asked, "You are a fire spirit warrior?" Jun Changxiao shook his shoulders and said, "Is it strange that I'm a fire spirit warrior?" Snap. He snapped his fingers and said, "Let's go back to the sect." The 5 people hurriedly followed. On the way, Li Qingyang said in a low voice, "Big sister, the flame that the master just used should be a very rare fire." Lu Qian said, "The best fire, Linglang fire." Ah. Li Qingyang almost stumbled and fell. After stabilizing himself, he looked at the master in shock. There are all kinds of strange attributes in the Xingyan continent, such as fire spirits and water spirits. Each kind has a level division, the same as the spiritual root qualifications. The best Linglang fire. It is definitely an extremely rare existence among the fire spirits. Li Qingyang suppressed his shock and whispered, "Big sister, the master is not simple." Lu Qian said lightly, "If he is simple, do you think that these junior brothers can make it to the top 4 with their qualifications and cultivation?" Li Qingyang said, "That makes sense." Jun Changxiao slowed down and walked side by side with the two of them, saying, "Qingyang, I have said that I will make you a martial emperor. How can I boast without ability? Remember." He glanced at the 5 disciples and said, "As long as you follow me down to earth, you will have bread, milk, and everything." Although they didn't know what bread was, the disciples still said in unison, "Follow the master forever." Boom. A thick lightning bolt spurted out from the dark clouds in the sky, striking the valley, where few people had ever been, and the ground cracked instantly. Swish. A black stream of light rushed out from it, then flew out of the valley, and merged into the body of a young man who was chopping wood in the distance. Ah! The young man screamed in pain. The originally clear eyes gradually became cold and fierce. After a while, the ferocious face relaxed, and he said in a hoarse voice, "My soul has been trapped for thousands of years, and I'm finally reborn. Ling Iao, I regard you as my confidant, but you plotted against me for the Takesu and Sutra. I will settle accounts with you after I start practicing again." What? That woman actually broke the void? Is she regarded as a belief by the world and is named the first female emperor of the ages? Crack. After fusing the memories, the young man's eyes flashed with endless anger and said, "That step I have never taken, but she, a woman, actually did it. No problem, no problem. I have the Takesu and Sutra in my hand. In just a few decades, I can easily break through to the martial emperor and break the void. It won't be too late to settle accounts with her then." Huh. The young man stretched lazily, and his originally clear eyes had a sense of vicissitudes that did not match his identity, as if he had experienced a lot of things. Yi Xingchen, one of the 10 great martial emperors thousands of years ago, known as the Night Emperor by the world. Later, he was killed by a woman whom he regarded as his confidant. A trace of his soul merged into the depths of the earth. After thousands of years of nurturing, he was able to break through the ground and fly out, and took over the body of the woodcutter. This body has only low-grade spiritual roots, and the cultivation level is only the first stage of opening meridians. It is too weak. Yi Xingchen looked inward at his new body. Fortunately, I have the Takesu and Sutra, which is a mental method to seize the fortune of heaven and earth. It should be able to transform low-level spiritual roots. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The first female emperor in the history? One day, I will pull you down from the altar. Yi Xingchen clenched his fist, raised his head and shouted, "From today on, I, Yi Xingchen, will make sure that no one in the world can disobey my will. Heaven is not convinced, then it is against heaven." Bang. As soon as the word heaven came out, something flew from a distance and hit him directly in the face. Yi Xingchen rolled his eyes, staggered around, and then fell down with a bang. One of the 10 great martial emperors thousands of years ago, a reborn strongman who was arrogant and shouted that he would defy the heavens, fainted on the spot, and the weapon he used to commit the crime was actually a football. A cry of surprise came from a distance. "Master, you kicked someone with this kick." No way. Where did this person come from in the wilderness? Swish. Not long after, Jun Changxiao came over with 5 disciples. Seeing the boy fainted on the grass, he twitched his mouth and said, "I kicked you in the face with just a kick. How unlucky you must be." "Master, what should I do?" Li Qingyang said. Jun Changxiao looked up at the dark clouds in the sky and said, "There are no villages around, and it's going to rain soon. Let's carry him back to the sect first." "Yes." Xiao Zuji squatted down and carried the boy on his back. Jun Changxiao put the football into the space ring and took 5 disciples to the Strongest Sect at a high speed. PS. Please recommend votes, and also tell me the update time. If there are 2 updates, there will be one update between 8 and 9 am, and one update between 6 and 7 pm. If there are 3 updates, there will be one update between 8 and 9 am, one update between 1 and 2 pm, and one update between 6 and 7 pm. Chapter 79. I'm someone you can't afford to offend. The headmaster and the senior sisters and brothers are back. The calm Tegu sect suddenly became boiling with a loud shout. When many disciples learned from Suzaomo that the junior brothers Aozuji not only won the championship, but several senior brothers also won the top 3 places, they immediately cheered excitedly. As a member of the sect, they naturally value this honor. "Hey, Liu Wan," she leaned against the dining hall and pouted. It was not easy to adjust them to be white and fat, but they had lost a lot of weight in just a few days. "Headmaster, what should we do with this person?" Xiao Zuji said, while carrying the unconscious Yi Xingchen. Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, "Put him in the medicine pavilion first." Xiao Zuji received the order, walked into the medicine pavilion, threw Yi Xingchen on the ward, and was about to leave, when he heard the man almost talking in his sleep. "I want to go against the sky." "Go against the sky? God owes you money?" Xiao Zuji thought he was talking in his sleep, ignored him, and turned away. In the martial arts field, many disciples stared at the black and white ball, puzzled. "Brother, what is this?" Suzaomo smiled and said, "This is called a happy football." The headmaster brought it out. He said that, if you kick it every day, it can not only cultivate your sentiments, but also improve your leg strength. A disciple came over, looked at the small words written on the football, and read, in 8018, the World Cup final, the Chinese men's football team defeated the Brazilian men's football team. The special ball for the game. Brother, what does this mean? I don't know. Suzayomo waved his hand and said, get out of the way, I'll kick it for you to try. Okay. Everyone hurriedly stepped back. Suzayomo stepped back a few steps, took a run up, and shot hard, but with a swoosh, the ball flew away, and hit the outer wall hard, showing a concave and cracked shape. His kick was comparable to the powerful Vajra kick in Shaolin soccer. Papa. Suzayomo clapped his hands and said, how is it? Awesome. Brother, your kick just now must have at least 1,000 pounds of force. The disciples exclaimed. As expected of a football from 1980, it endured such a high force and just bounced back without breaking or deforming. Jun Changxiao spent 10 contribution points to buy a happy football and let his disciples kick it when they were free, in order to train their tacit understanding. The next day, the martial arts field was slightly modified into a simple football field. After informing the disciples of the rules, he asked them to divide into 2 teams and start competing. My face hurts. Yi Xingchen, who was lying in the medicine cabinet, woke up slowly, touched his face subconsciously, and his eyes suddenly became cold and fierce. He vaguely remembered that he seemed to be hit by a flying hidden weapon, and then lost consciousness. Damn it. Yi Xingchen, the martial arts emperor who once dominated the continent, was actually tricked by a hidden weapon. After a short rest, he stood up with difficulty, then looked around and murmured, was he rescued by someone else? No matter. Leave this place first. Find a blessed place with abundant spiritual power, start practicing, and strive to enter the martial emperor as soon as possible. Yi Xingchen opened the door with a creak, but before he walked out, he heard a bang, and his face was hit by the football, and then he fell straight to the ground. Li Fei. Suzayomo on the martial arts field yelled, how did you pass the ball? The disciple named Li Fei scratched his head and said, brother, this is my first time kicking, and I haven't found the right target yet. Go pick up the ball. Good. Li Fei hurriedly picked up the ball. The disciples of the Tigu school kicked again happily. Although they didn't even look like an amateur team, they had opened several meridians, and the ball they kicked was still very powerful. But, damn it. Yi Xingchen covered his face and stood up, saying angrily, another plot against me. Bang. The football flew into the medical pavilion at a tricky angle again, hitting him directly on the forehead, and he fell straight down again. Suzayomo said madly, Li Fei, what kind of footwork is this? Li Fei scratched his head awkwardly, then picked up the ball, and continued to kick. Pa. Yi Xingchen put one hand on the bed, slowly stood up, his eyes flashing with murderous intent, and said, today's revenge, I will remember it. As he said that, he hurried to the door and closed it, fearing that the round hidden weapon would fly in again. Who are these people? Why do you want to plot against me? Yi Xingchen stuck to the wall in front of the door, turned his head, and looked at the martial arts field through the window. Creaky. Just at this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open. Jun Changxiao walked in, and saw that there was no one on the bed. He asked in confusion, where is that kid? Plop. Yi Xingchen, who was squeezed behind the door, straightened up and fell to his side, foaming at the mouth. Jun Changxiao turned around and asked, why is he hiding behind the door? Half an hour later, the pain in Yi Xingchen's body gradually dissipated, and he asked with a cold look, who are you? Huh? Jun Changxiao was surprised. This guy looked younger than himself, but his eyes revealed a sense of vicissitudes, as if he had eaten a lot of roads, and walked a lot of rice. Not simple, not simple. Jun Changxiao said, my name is Jun Changxiao, the head of the Strongest Sect. Strongest Sect? Yi Xingchen said lightly, such an ugly sect name, I don't think it's a big sect. Oh, my gosh. He thinks my sect name is ugly, and he says it's not a big sect. This guy is a bit arrogant. Jun Changxiao said, who are you? Yi Xingchen raised his eyebrows and said proudly, you just need to remember that I'm an existence you can't afford to offend. This is not a bit arrogant, this is very arrogant. Swish. Yi Xingchen got up and walked out the door, saying lightly, "Don't provoke me in the future, otherwise, I will." There was a murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Bang! The football shot from outside and hit him in the face accurately. Maybe because he had done it so many times, he fainted again this time. When Yi Xingchen woke up, he found himself tied up on a chair. "Master, he's awake," Suzaomo said. Jun Changxiao walked in from outside and said with a smile, "Boy, no matter how awesome you are, from today on, you will be a member of my Strongest Sect." His intuition told him that this guy with sharp eyes must have a story and his identity must be extraordinary. The sect just had 399 vacancies left, so he was recruited first. As for the missing vacancies, it was taken by Liu Wanshi, and all that was left was to go through the procedures of filling out the forms and stamping them. Yi Xingchen's eyes were gloomy. As one of the 10 great martial emperors, he had just been reborn and was repeatedly plotted against and finally tied up. This was intolerable. "Boy," he said coldly, "I won't join because your sect is not qualified to accommodate me." Jun Changxiao said, "Do you think you are a martial emperor and can't accommodate you?" Yi Xingchen's eyes became more and more gloomy and looked very scary. At this time, according to the plot of the protagonist of the Strong Rebirth, being despised by the villain leader, he turned on the pretending and slapping mode. The reality is that Jun Changxiao came over and said, "I'll give you 3 times to think about it, otherwise I won't be polite." "Are you threatening me?" Yi Xingchen said. Jun Changxiao retracted his body and waved his hand, saying, "Not only do I threaten you, I dare to hit you." Swish. Suzaomo swung a fist and hit him in the face and said arrogantly, "It's your blessing that the leader likes you. Why are you pretending to be a peerless master with a stinky face?" Yi Xingchen was furious. "You dare to stare at me?" Suzaomo raised his fist again and began to violently destroy him. After a while, he beat him black and blue. "Yi Xingchen, Yi Emperor. It's sad that such an unshakable existence has fallen to this point. However, he finally compromised because he was moved to the martial arts field." Dozens of disciples stood far away with a happy football under their feet. If they disagreed, they would kick it until they agreed. P.S. Thank you 159 asterisk 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 33 Yashing and Guokajiran for your awards. I will continue to ask for your recommendation votes. Chapter 80, The Guardian Formation. Yi Xingchen compromised. It's not that he has no backbone, but the young man who has just been reborn and possessed another body has only opened one section of meridians and can't fight back at all. What's more, the hidden weapons kicked by this group of Tegu disciples have at least several hundred pounds of force, and his small body can't bear it at all. No matter whether Yi Xingchen can become a martial emperor in the future, or whether he can pull down the first female emperor of the ages, he is still just a weakling who has just been reborn. In order not to sing a song of coldness, he can only choose to endure. Damn guy, damn Strongest faction. When this emperor has successfully cultivated the Taixuan Sutra and his realm has been raised, he will trample all of you under his feet and rub you hard. Yi Xingchen roared in his heart. How angry that was, how unwilling that was. But then again, why did Jun Changxiao recruit Yi Xingchen? In his opinion, people who can reveal vicissitudes of life must have experienced something, which is easier than training young people who are ignorant of the world. The next day, witnessed by 99 disciples, Liu Wanshi and the bound Yi Xingchen filled out the forms and stamped them according to the procedures, officially becoming the 101st and 102nd disciples of the Tegu sect. Ding. Sect members. 102/500. Ding. Sect contribution value. 274/500. Jun Chang smiled and said, "King Guiyang, give them the school uniforms." Yes. Li King Guiyang came over holding several sets of male and female sect uniforms. Liu Wanshi took them and smiled sweetly. "Thank you, sect master. Thank you, second senior brother." She had envied this unique sect uniform for a long time, and today she finally got it as she wished. After Yi Xingchen was untied, he reluctantly took the sect uniform and said in his heart, "This emperor will let you be arrogant for a while, and when you comprehend the Taixuan Sutra, I will take your life. Do Xingchen, follow me." Jun Changxiao brought the two to the hall and threw 2 Yijinjing to them, saying, "This is the entry-level mental method of our sect. You can practice it first. Remember, don't pass it on to others." He just spent 10 contribution points and copied the upper limit of 1000 copies for backup. Yi Xingchen took the brand new secret book and said disdainfully, "How can this rubbish mental method be in the eyes of this emperor?" Liu Wanshi happily hugged the secret book and smiled. "Thank you, master. Du will definitely work hard to practice. You are so happy with the low-level mental method. You are really an ordinary person." Yi Xingchen looked down on Yi Jinjing from the bottom of his heart. It's understandable. After all, there is Taixuan Sutra, not to mention that he fell once for it. Liu Wanshi was not a disciple at first and lived in the cafeteria. Now she has a separate room after entering the sect next to Lu Kai and Qian. Yi Xingchen was also assigned a place to live, but when he saw the inner courtyard with many terraces and pavilions, he was secretly surprised and said, "For a 9th-rate sect, it is well built. Well, let me start my journey back to the top here." He walked into the room and was going to practice Taixuan Zhenjing, but he opened Yi Jinjing without knowing it. Why would I want to read a rubbish mental method? Maybe I'm bored. Yi Xingchen laughed at himself and locked his eyes on the formula recorded on the homepage. Gradually, his face froze, and finally he exclaimed uncontrollably, "God-grade mental method." As a former martial emperor, Yi Xingchen is more authoritative than Lu Kai and Qian and Li Qingyang. He only roughly understood it and judged the quality. Moreover, it is a god-grade body refining mental method. Yi Xingchen said solemnly, a low-ranking sect would have an extremely precious body refining mental method. Is this emperor dreaming, or thousands of years later, today, there are so many divine products and holy products everywhere? He continued to study, and his mind was full of huge waves. This Yijinjing seems simple, but it actually contains mysteries. It is definitely a body refining mental method that is hard to come by. My body was not well tempered back then, and it was difficult to withstand the tearing of space and take the step of breaking the void. Now that I have been reborn, I not only have the Taixuan Sutra, but also the divine body refining mental method. Even if I have a useless body, it is easy for me to become a martial emperor and break the void. Ha ha ha. Yi Xingchen laughed. Swish, the happy football flew in from the open window and hit him directly in the face. Suzayamo's voice came, "It's the middle of the night, and you still want to let me sleep? Damn it." Yi Xingchen covered his forehead and said angrily, "Boy, this emperor will remember you." Night fell, and everything was silent. Jun Changxiao had no intention of sleeping. He sat on the bench in the stone pavilion, as if thinking about something. The assassin who assassinated me in the hall must be the assassin sent by Linquan Sect. Who sent the group of black-clothed men outside Liang City? Jun Changxiao summed up the troubles he had caused since he came to the other world. After thinking about it, he felt that Linquan Sect had the greatest motive for committing the crime. Now that I have entered the 5th grade martial arts apprentice, and I have the seal opening talisman, I should go to Linquan Sect to seek justice. His eyes became cold and fierce. Jun Changxiao would not think that the assassins of Linquan Sect would stop after the failure of the assassination. Instead of passively taking the beating, it is better to take the initiative to attack and let them know that I can't afford to offend them. Swish. Suddenly, a slight sound of breaking wind came from his ears. Before the breakthrough, Jun Changxiao would definitely not be able to detect it, but after entering the martial arts apprentice, his eyes, ears, and nose were all improved. Even if a grain of sand fell in front of him, he could hear the movement. Someone. He stood up suddenly and dodged to the side. Just as he was about to retreat, a shadow came out from the darkness, and the sword in his hand passed from behind, almost hitting him. Jun Changxiao stabilized himself, took out the Desert Eagle, and was about to shoot, but saw the shadow hit the air, tapped his toes lightly, and instantly disappeared into the night. He frowned. The system said, "Host, you should buy the sect protection formation as soon as possible to protect the sect, otherwise others can come and go at will, as if they were in an empty place. Is it sold in the beginner mall?" Jun Changxiao asked. The system said, "Yes, you need to refresh it, based on your luck. You have to refresh it, based on your luck. After all, it's really annoying that they come and go as they please." Besides, they only attack themselves. It would be troublesome if they attack disciples. Suddenly, a scream was heard. Jun Changxiao rushed into the male disciple's room and pushed the door open. He saw Yu Xingchen holding his buttocks and angrily said, "What kind of villain dares to sneak attack me? What's going on?" Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomo rushed over in pajamas with swords. Seeing Yu Xingchen's buttocks spurting blood, the corners of their mouths twitched suddenly. "There is a killer who wants to assassinate me," Jun Changxiao said calmly. "Call all the disciples, gather in the hall, and take turns to guard, so as not to be taken advantage of by the other party." "Yes." Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomo hurried to summon them. Soon, all the male and female disciples gathered in the hall. Yu Xingchen, who was stabbed in the buttocks, also came and roared in his heart, "If you have a grudge, go and assassinate him. It's useless to assassinate a disciple like me who has just entered the sect. Alas, the killer may think that he is the weakest in the sect." Jun Changxiao is very angry now. Sitting on the 1,000-year-old sandalwood chair, he pulled down the first product maul fiercely. Ding. Sect contribution value 254/500. After refreshing, the primary maul replaced its products again. Not only was there no sect protection formation, but most of the other products were useless. Even if it was useless, Jun Changxiao bought a refreshing cigar, which consumed 10 points. Refresh again. Jun Changxiao pulled down the maul again. Ding. Sect contribution value 234/500. The new products were all daily necessities, such as thermos cups, feather dusters, table tennis rackets, etc. Jun Changxiao gritted his teeth and bought a feather duster with a contribution value of 10 points, which was used for cleaning. Ding. Sect contribution value 214/500. Ding. Sect contribution value 194/500. Ding. Sect contribution value 174/500. When Jun Changxiao refreshed for the 5th time, his face showed great joy, because the item with the word sect protection formation finally appeared in the primary maul. PS. Thanks to Anamotoku, me, Ami, Teheo, 134 ********* 84, and Scholar for the tips. Please vote for a new day. Chapter 81 Run the fuck away. PS. There was a bug in the last chapter. The protagonist refreshed them all, and should have bought something. I forgot. A reader reminded me and it has been modified. The content and consumption are slightly different from the end of the last chapter. You can go back and check. Jun Changxiao refreshed them all 5 times, and spent 90 contribution points, of which 40 points were spent on unimportant goods, which made him feel a little distressed. However, fortunately, the sect protection formation was refreshed, which was still worth it. Click to open the details. Item. First grade sect protection formation. Effect. After use, you can arrange a defensive formation in the sect to prevent non-sect members from entering and exiting. Time limit. Immediate use. Price. 50 contribution points. Note, the formation is successfully arranged and is in the open state by default, consuming 1 contribution point per day. Bye. Jun Changxiao didn't consider that this was a consumable formation at all, and bought it directly. Ding. The host consumes 50 contribution points, and obtains 1 first grade sect protection formation, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 124/500. The first grade sect protection formation is the same as the spiritual power formation, with small flags and instructions. Set it up at dawn. Jun Changxiao said secretly. There was a killer lurking in the dark, and the disciples of the Tigu sect stayed in the hall overnight. Several disciples were responsible for taking turns to change shifts. During this time, Su Xiaomo took the initiative to bandage Yu Xingchen's wound, and wrapped both buttocks with bandages. Nothing happened that night. After dawn, Jun Changxiao ordered several disciples to form a group, open the cordon, and start to set up the formation. Swish, swish. Small flags were inserted outside the sect wall. After half an hour of arrangement, the sect was finally surrounded. Swish. The stream of light flickered, forming a light shield that encircled the entire Tigu sect, and then became transparent. Jun Changxiao stood at the gate and stretched out his hand to touch the transparent barrier. He found that there was no change. It was hard to believe that there was a formation in front of him. The system said, when outsiders force their way in or bombard, the sect protection formation will appear. It will be hidden in the space at ordinary times. How strong is it? Jun Changxiao said. The system said, it should be no problem to withstand the bombardment of the martial arts master of Xingyu continent. Jun Changxiao was relieved. The system said, the level of the first grade sect protection formation is a bit low. The host can replace it with a high level one in the future. Yes. Jun Changxiao said, tell me, what does the sect lack now? If it weren't for the system's prompt, he wouldn't know that there is such a thing as a sect protection formation, so he must ask clearly first. The system said, the sect still lacks the division of personal disciples, inner sects, and outer sects, the division of positions such as deputy head, elders, and the casting pavilion, martial arts pavilion, and mind law pavilion. No hurry, no hurry. Jun Changxiao said, take your time. There are only about 100 people in the division of personal disciples and inner sects, so there is no need to divide them for the time being. As for the positions of deputy head and elder, there are no disciples who can take them up at the moment, so we have to take it one step at a time. With the protection formation, Jun Changxiao felt relieved. The disciples were either practicing or playing football as usual. As for Yi Xingchen, he also started practicing for the first time after his rebirth. He focused more on practicing Yi Jinjing. After all, he suffered from the loss of not shaping his body to the extreme in his previous life. In this life, he must focus on laying a good foundation. However, he only has low-grade spiritual roots. Just like ordinary disciples, he needs time to succeed in cultivation. This incident tells us that, even if you dominated the continent in your previous life, you can't be reborn as an ordinary person and go against the sky immediately. Jun Changxiao's contribution value is still rich. He opened the spiritual power formation and let the disciples practice. Then he waved to Yi Xingchen and said, come, I'll take you to a fun place. Fun place. Yi Xingchen finally stood in front of the muscle shaping machine. Go in. Jun Changxiao said. Damn. This guy actually let me go through a dog hole. Swish. Jun Changxiao pushed him in directly and started the shaping machine. The time was 10 hours. Bang, bang, bang. Late at night, Yi Xingchen lay on the bed like a pool of mud, his eyes revealing a lifeless look. It must be that the emperor's rebirth posture is wrong, which is why he ended up in this situation. Lu Kai and Qian, Li Qingyang and others stood in front of their respective wing doors, hands clasped on the hilts of their swords, obviously waiting for the hidden killer to appear. Bang, bang. In the small martial arts arena, Suzuomo was skillfully dribbling the ball. For him who pays attention to speed, playing football is a good tool to practice footwork. The most slutty operation is still Jun Changxiao, who is sitting in the study, holding a bamboo slip called Historical Records and reading it. The author is Sima Qian. This was bought by forced consumption when refreshing, and it can be regarded as a cram school for Chinese history in another world. Swish. At this moment, the sound of breaking wind came to my ears again. Damn. The killer is in the sect. Jun Changxiao, who thought he was safe, hurriedly retreated, but the cold sword still stabbed straight at him. Soon, there was no escape. In desperation, he could only raise the records of the Grand Historian in his hand to protect his chest. Ding. The sharp sword pierced the bamboo slips, and there was a golden sound, and sparks splashed. The black-clothed man's knuckles were numb from the shock, and his eyes were filled with astonishment, but he didn't care about anything, and he tiptoed out of the window. Jun Changxiao was also confused. What am I holding in my hand? Is it a bamboo slip or a piece of iron plate? There was no time to be dazed. Jun Changxiao jumped out of the window, but the black-clothed man had rushed out 100 meters, and was out of the range of the Desert Eagle. At this time, Lu Kai and Qian and Li Qingyang heard the news and rushed over, and were about to chase the disappearing black shadow. No need to chase. Jun Changxiao folded his hands and said, no more chasing. Lu Kai and Qian and Li Qingyang were stunned, and then they heard a bang, and saw the black-clothed man's limbs and face all stuck to the streamer barrier, and then hissing slid down. Formation. The two exclaimed in unison. Jun Changxiao rolled up his sleeves and strode over. The Desert Eagle in his hand was already loaded, the safety bolt was pulled, and the muzzle was pointed at the killer who fell to the ground, and he shouted, "Run the fuck out." The man in black was dizzy from the strong pressure and impact, and flew to the side again, but he still crashed hard into the protective formation. What's going on? Suzuomo, Shinki and other disciples rushed over, and saw the man in black squatting under the streamer barrier with his head covered, and they were immediately confused. What is that streamer? A formation? When did our sect have this thing? Everyone found it difficult to understand. The man in black hiding in the inner courtyard was also puzzled. After all, he had been lurking in and nothing happened, so how could there suddenly be a formation? Bang! Just at this moment, Jun Changxiao strode over, and his right fist filled with spiritual power hit him hard in the face, and he crashed into the wall of the wing room like a cannonball. This assassin was only a 4th grade martial artist. He was able to appear and disappear at will, only because of his exquisite body skills. Now that he was seen to have lost his advantage, he would definitely not be able to withstand the attack of a 5th grade martial artist. Jun Changxiao came over, put his gun on his waist, picked up the bamboo slips and smashed them hard. Not to mention, the bamboo slips, which were used as a lesson from history, were quite handy. After a while, the opponent was smashed to the ground with blood all over his head. Yi Xingchen, who was standing in the distance, twitched his mouth. He said, "This guy's too cruel." Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, nothing to hide, and rewarding 30 contribution points. Ding. School contribution value. 153 over 500. Damn. For this guy, I spent so much contribution points, and only rewarded 30 points. Seal the meridians and lock him up. Yes. A gold medal assassin was captured and imprisoned during his 265th assassination attempt. He was sent to a closed room. The previously captured killer saw the fingerprint pattern of the other party and was shocked. A killer of this level has fallen into the hands of the Tigu sect. Jun Changxiao stood outside, caught the killer's eye changes through the crack of the door, and said coldly, "It must be sent by Lincoln sect again." The next day, he handed over the affairs of the sect to Li Qingyang, and went down the mountain alone, with a desert eagle and a pocket-sized knife on his belt. The direction he went to was Lincoln Mountain. "Big sister, the leader seems very angry," Li Qingyang said solemnly, after watching the angry back disappear on the mountain road. Lu Kai and Qian leaned against the gate and said lightly, "If I were to send killers to attack one after another, I would definitely kill them. Will the leader be okay? You should be concerned about whether Lincoln sect can still exist. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82. I'm here to destroy your family. Lincoln Mountain, located in Yaoyang City, Qingyang County, was a scenic spot often visited by scholars and poets in the past. Later, the 4 brothers of the Wei family came here and established a sect. From then on, it became a private venue and no one was allowed to enter. The people were definitely not happy to lose a place to play, and they reported it to the mayor of Yaoyang City. However, the backstage of Lincoln sect was Strongest Sect, so the mayor could only turn a blind eye. In just over 10 years, with the vigorous development of the Wei brothers, Lincoln sect gradually grew, and there were more than 300 disciples under the sect. Of course, it was still the 9th stream. If it were not for the backstage Strongest Sect, its reputation in the world would probably be a little higher than that of the Tiguzheng sect established by sect leader Wang. Why is it sect leader Wang's? Because, under the various operations of the 2nd generation sect leader Jun Changxiao during this period, the prestige of the sect has long surpassed that of his predecessor. What is missing is that the news of the sect's martial arts competition spreads. Lincoln sect, the main hall, where Yinu, with a broken arm, sat in the first seat below, and a middle-aged man with a slightly gloomy face sat in the first seat above. His name is Wei Yixi. He is the current leader of Lincoln sect, and his cultivation is that of a 2nd grade martial artist. Brother, Wei Yixi gritted his teeth and said, "Can the assassin we hired again get rid of Jun Changxiao?" Wei Yixi took a sip of tea and said, the gold medal assassin of Xiao Tower has assassinated more than 200 times and has never failed. He can definitely get rid of him. Don't worry. Yes. The hired assassin has been taken down by sect leader Jun and is now playing double landlord with another assassin. Damn it. Wei Yixi slapped the armrest and said incomprehensibly, how can the leader of a rubbish sect be so difficult to kill? Wei Yixi shook his head and said, fourth brother, Jun Changxiao can kill the second and third brothers, and you still think he is rubbish, then you are wrong. The two brothers went to Qingyang City to visit the city lord and did not return, so he went there in person to find out the reason. City Lord Z seemed unwilling to offend Linquan Sect, which had a backer, and told him about Jun Changxiao killing Wei Yile and Wei Yiri. Upon learning that his brother was killed, Wei Yixi was furious. But after all, he was the leader of a sect. Although he was angry, he calmly analyzed that Jun Changxiao killed his brother with a single blow, and his strength should not be underestimated. After returning to the sect, after much thought, he decided to spend a lot of money to hire a killer from Xiao Tower. He didn't dare to confront him head on, but played dirty tricks behind his back, which was very insidious. Wei Yinu was not so calm. When he heard his eldest brother talking about his dead second and third brothers, his eyes flashed with murderous intent. The four brothers practiced together, joined the Shenquan sect together, and went down the mountain to start a business together. They had a very deep relationship, but they didn't expect that the last separation would become a farewell forever. Second brother, third brother. Wei Yixi put the teacup on the table. His eyes became extremely gloomy and said, no matter how much it costs, my eldest brother will eventually avenge you. The so-called price is to hire a killer to assassinate him. To borrow a word from teacher Ma, it's a lot of money. Big brother, Wei Yinu said in a hateful voice, when the assassins from Xiao Tower kill Jun Changxiao, I will go to Tegu Sect in person and use the blood of his disciples to pay tribute to the spirits of my second and third brothers in heaven. Wei Yixi said, after all, Tegu Sect is a member of the 100 Sects Alliance. Be careful when you go there, and don't be discovered. Yeah. Wei Yinu's face was full of murderous intent. He wished he could go to Tegu Sect and kill people right now to pay tribute to his two brothers. Wei Yixi took another sip of tea and said with disdain, I heard that the kid brought his disciples to participate in the sect competition. He really overestimates his own abilities. TSK. Wei Yinu snorted coldly, you don't know how much you weigh. You participate in the sect competition just to make others laugh at you. Wei Yixi rested his elbows on the armrests, clasped his fingers together, and said, I don't know who will win this sect competition. I heard that the 6th-rate sect Juayan Valley also sent disciples to participate. If nothing unexpected happens, they should be able to win the championship. Wei Yinu said. Although the two brothers had never left the mountain, they were still very concerned about the martial arts competition. Report. At this moment, a disciple ran in from outside, panting, Master, Elder, I just came back from Yaoyang City, and I heard. What did you hear? I heard that in this martial arts competition, Xiao Zuji, a disciple of the Tegu Sect, won the championship. What? Wei Yixi and Wei Yinu stood up, their eyes flashing with disbelief. The disciple took 2 deep breaths and said, and, moreover, his 4 disciples also took the top 4 places. Impossible. Wei Yinu firmly said in disbelief, for his Jiu Liu sect, it's good enough for his disciples to advance to the second round. How could they take the top 4 places? Wei Yixi said quite calmly, is the news accurate? The disciple said, the notice has been posted in Yaoyang City. The disciple has seen it with his own eyes. Wei Yinu was dumbfounded. After each sect competition, each city in Qingyang County would post a notice to announce the champion. This was definitely not hearsay or a false rumor. Wei Yixi frowned and said, the champion of the sect competition has at least the cultivation level of a second-grade martial artist. Are the disciples of Tegu Sect so strong? The disciple said, I learned from the warriors who returned from Liang City that several disciples of Tegu Sect are very strong, and at least have the cultivation level of a first-grade martial artist. Plop. Wei Yinu sat down with a wonderful expression on his face. Just now, He was still thinking about waiting for Jun Changxiao to be killed by the assassin, and then slaughtering the Tigu sect with blood. If the news that he had won the top 4 places was true, he would be going to die if he went. Fourth brother, Wei Yixi also realized it, and said solemnly, no matter whether the news is true or not, you must not go to Tigu sect. Yeah. Wei Yinu said hurriedly. He won't go. But, they are here. Bang. Suddenly, a loud noise was heard, shocking Wei Yixi and Wei Yinu's faces. They hurried out of the hall, and saw that the valuable vermilion gate had been shattered. Trampled. Jun Changxiao stepped in with a plaque on his shoulder, with the words Lincoln Sect written on it. In his other hand, he held a smoking desert eagle and a cigar hanging from his mouth. Cigars were also mandatory for refreshing them all. Although the effect is to refresh the mind, it is more important to use it to show off. Jun Changxiao, Wei Yinu said with bloodshot eyes. Is he the head of the Tigu sect? Wei Yixi frowned, and the gloom in his eyes became more and more intense. Bang. Jun Changxiao put the plaque down, put one hand on it, looked at the courtyard that was larger than his own sect, and said lightly, such a good place, it's a pity to destroy it. Destroyed? What a pity. Wei Yixi said with a sinister look. Master Jun, you came here. Yes. Jun Changxiao raised his gun, pointed it at him, and said proudly, I'm here to destroy the clan. You are looking for death. Wei Yinu couldn't suppress his anger, and summoned a brand new sword from the space ring, and was about to rush through. Bang. The muzzle of the desert eagle spurted out flames, and the bullet condensed by the crystal core turned into a stream of light and shot out, directly piercing his chest. Wei Yinu stopped, slowly lowered his head, looked at the pierced chest. His eyes were filled with fear, the long sword he was holding fell, and he knelt on the ground with a plop. P.S. Thanks to Mo Yan, Ziobo, Reflection in the Sun, 182 ************ 04, Bing Thanking Gion, Mobay for awarding, please recommend, ! Chapter 83 Lincoln Sect, saying goodbye to the Jianghu. Wei Yinu only saw a stream of light coming, and then his chest was pierced, and he knelt on the ground and died. He was afraid that he would be wondering until his death what kind of hidden weapon was flying, which could penetrate his flesh and heart so powerfully. Puff. Jun Changxiao blew on the smoking muzzle of the gun and said lightly, your death is worth it. This bullet of mine is worth dozens of taels of silver. It is definitely worth it. With the strength of the Jun Sect master, he can kill Wei Yinu with his bare hands. Shooting is a waste of bullets. Fourth brother. Wei Yixi's expression was dull, and his eyes gradually turned red. He was not about to cry, but a manifestation of extreme anger. The 3 younger brothers followed him since childhood, either bullying others together, or being bullied together. Now they are dead one by one, which is a heavy blow to him. Thump, thump, thump. Just at this time, the startled disciples of Lincoln Sect rushed out from the inner courtyard one after another. There were hundreds of them. When they saw the 4th elder kneeling on the ground with a hole in his chest, they all widened their eyes. Who killed him? At the first moment, everyone looked at Jun Changxiao. Especially when they saw the plaque of the sect was removed. They knew that this guy was here to mess things up. It's him. The green turban warrior who had been stepped on in the wild looked at Jun Changxiao, who was holding a tree root in his mouth, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. It is said that the Tigu sect and Lincoln sect have reached a point of life and death, and Brother Green Turban has made an indispensable contribution, because if he hadn't deliberately approached Liu Kai and Qian, there would be no conflict. Oh, how to say it? It can't be blamed entirely on him. It's mainly because Lincoln Sect is too protective of its children. When they learned that their disciples were beaten up, they had to come for revenge. On the stage of grievances, Wei Yi's anger was murderous, which expanded the conflict to an irreconcilable point. If it were other 9 raid sects, I'm afraid they would have brought their disciples to apologize when the 100 sects recruited, but it happened that the person involved was Jun Changxiao, a person like an iron plate. Forbearance for a while will bring peace, and taking a step back will open up a vast sea. Lincoln Sect could not tolerate it, and refused to retreat, so it could only learn a lesson with the lives of the 3 elders. Unfortunately, Wei Yixi did not learn a lesson now. He clenched his fists, his eyes were bloodshot, and he said in a cold voice, Kill him. The disciples dared not disobey the order of the sect master, and immediately took out their weapons, and rushed over to surround Jun Changxiao. Brother Green Scarf was also among them, and the anger flashing in his eyes was no weaker than that of the sect master. Jun Changxiao took a puff of cigarette, blew out a smoke ring, and said, "If I were you, I would not let the disciples come up to die. Boy, stop talking nonsense, die." A disciple was eager to show off in front of the sect master, and immediately swung his knife to kill. Jun Changxiao took back the Desert Eagle, and the cold sword appeared out of thin air. He turned his wrist and a cold sword flashed. Squeak. The neck was marked by a sword, and blood splattered. The disciple dropped his weapon, covered the wound with both hands, and made a mumble sound in his throat, and fell to the ground with a look of despair. Hiss. The Lincoln Sect disciple who was about to attack was shocked to see his fourth senior brother, who had reached the 10th stage of Kame, being killed by a sword. Go. Wei Yixi roared angrily. Why didn't he go? Because he knew that the silver bright object that Jun Changxiao had just taken must be a terrifying hidden weapon. If he attacked, he would be shot and killed like his fourth brother. While let the disciples go. Because he knew that Jun Changxiao's hidden weapon should be similar to a bow and crossbow, and there must be not many bullets and arrows. Let the disciples rush forward, and kill if they can, and consume if they can't. To put it bluntly, it's just using the disciples as cannon fodder. The Lincoln Sect disciples obviously didn't expect that in the eyes of the sect master. They were so worthless, but they were willing to obey orders, and rushed forward with swords and knives. A group of pitiful people. Jun Changxiao shook his head, holding the Han Feng sword in one hand, and greeted the Lincoln Sect disciples who were rushing over. Swish, swish, swish. The 9-layered wave sword was performed, and layers of energy appeared with the sword energy, spreading like ripples. Puff, puff. The cold sword flashed past, and the throats of more than a dozen Lincoln Sect disciples who rushed to Jun Changxiao were all cut, and they fell to the ground like blooming flowers. Tick, tick. The tip of the cold sword pointed downward, and drops of blood slid down and splashed on the stone slab. Jun Changxiao stood in front of dozens of corpses, his eyes flashing coldly, as if he was a killing god from hell. The disciples of Lincoln Sect were frightened and surrounded them with swords and knives in fear, but they did not dare to rush over. Jun Changxiao raised his head, pointed his sword at Wei Yixi and said, "The person I want to kill today is him. If you don't want to be killed by my sword, get out of here quickly." The disciples of Lincoln Sect were not unforgivable bandits. He didn't want to kill more people, so this time, the so-called extermination of the family was mainly to exterminate the Wei brothers. Boy, die. Just at this moment, a disciple raised his knife and chopped down fiercely from behind. Jun Changxiao, who thought he was merciful enough, had a cold look in his eyes and swung out the cold-edged sword with his backhand. Swish, with a flash of sword light, the sword cut off the warrior's weapon and his head. Kill, kill. The disciples of Lincoln Sect took the opportunity to kill from all directions. Jun Changxiao no longer suppressed them, and the 5th grade martial artist's cultivation was fully activated. The spiritual power was poured into the cold-edged sword, and a cold and gloomy aura instantly exuded. Since you are stubborn, don't blame me for killing people in Lincoln Mountain. As he spoke, he swung the sword suddenly, dragging a long sword shadow. Ding, ding, ding. Wherever the cold sword passed, all the swords and knives that came over were broken, and some of the tips of the knives and swords even pierced the legs and feet of the disciples of Lincoln Sect. They didn't have time to scream, because the second sword had already slashed over mercilessly. Swish, the cold sword passed, carrying a cold light. Puff, puff. More than 20 disciples of Lincoln Sect who rushed over stood still, with neat and small sword marks on their Adam's apples, and then they all lowered their heads. Jun Changxiao walked past them, and the more than 20 drops of blood gathered by the cold sword were also evaporated by spiritual power in an instant. Plop. After only a few steps, 20 disciples of Lincoln Sect fell to the ground. These people's cultivation was only the 5th or 6th stage of opening meridians. Jun Changxiao, who had the cold sword and the strength of a 5th grade martial artist, could easily wipe them out. Wei Yixi was terrified. At this moment, he had roughly deduced that the strength of the leader of the Tegu sect was not lower than that of a 4th grade martial artist. Not only the leader of Lincoln Sect was terrified, but also those disciples. Although they surrounded Jun Changxiao, they also followed him step by step and retreated, with a strong fear in their eyes. Killing fellow disciples is like mowing the grass, and they must be afraid in their hearts. Go, go. Wei Yixi roared like crazy. He didn't care about the lives of his disciples. As long as he could kill Jun Changxiao, it didn't matter if they all died. However, Jun Changxiao was too strong. The disciples of Lincoln Sect didn't dare to rush up, and even confronted him with cold eyes. The hands holding the weapons were shaking violently. This is the god of killing. Whoever goes up will die. Restrain, restrain. Swish. Jun Changxiao raised his sword, and the cold light flashed. The cold breath spread, which frightened everyone's scalp, and made a wise choice at the first time, retreating as far as they could. Wei Yixi was furious. He wanted to rely on his disciples to hold him back, and then take the opportunity to escape, but now, they all ran away. Jun Changxiao, who had no disciples blocking his way, rushed forward in one step, and the cold sword infused with spiritual power drew a cold sword light. Not good. Puff, as Wei Yixi felt a strong sense of crisis, his head flew out, and landed in front of the plaque in the courtyard. A line of blood splashed on the three big characters of Lincoln Sect. Sect Master. The disciples of Lincoln Sect stood there stupidly. On this day, a fire broke out on Lincoln Mountain, and burned for a whole day and night. The Lincoln Sect, which occupied the top of the mountain, said goodbye to the world. Jun Changxiao, who came down the mountain, stood on a boulder, and took a deep puff of the cigar, looking at the scenery in the distance, and murmured, "Why is there no nicotine taste?" The system said, "This is an electronic cigarette." Damn PS. Thank the user Dudangalele for the reward. Please recommend votes. Chapter 84 Cooperation. Win-win. The Lincoln Sect, which was established only more than 10 years ago, was reduced to ashes in a fire. More than 200 disciples were scattered because of the death of the sect leader and elders. They may join other sects or live ordinary lives, but the scene of Jun Changxiao killing people will be remembered forever in their hearts and become an indelible memory of fear. In the mountains and fields, Brother Greenscarf knelt in front of the grave, clenched his fists and said, "Sect leader, elders, one day I will avenge you and the Lincoln Sect." He stood up, carried his salute on his back, and resolutely walked to the east, where there was a huge monster cult, Lincoln Sect. Jun Changxiao. Brother Green Hat's voice rippled. "My name is Delu, remember it clearly for me." He only dared to shout these words in the mountains and forests, where there was no one around. Big news, big news. A big fire broke out in Lincoln Sect yesterday. The entire sect was reduced to ashes, and all the disciples ran away. In Yaoyang City, just after dawn, a warrior shouted on the street. This news spread like wildfire, instantly burning all the streets, every household, and even every corner. The first reaction of the warriors in the city was, "What a joke, so early in the morning?" When more and more people went to Lincoln Mountain and saw the sect reduced to ruins, they firmly believed that the Lincoln Sect, which had been domineering for many years, was really gone. Oh my god, who is so bold to set fire to Lincoln Sect? Where are Sect Master Wei and Elder Wei? I heard from the disciples who escaped down the mountain that the Sect Master and elders of Lincoln Sect were all killed. This sect can be said to have been completely wiped out from the world. Who killed them? I'm afraid you won't believe it, but it was the leader of the Tegu Sect who killed the Wei brothers. Tegu Sect? Isn't that a ninth-rate sect? How could they have the strength to destroy Lincoln Sect? Did they hire some masters? No masters, just him. Oh my god, is the leader of a ninth-rate sect so awesome? The Lincoln Sect and the Tegu Sect clashed in Qingyang City. I thought that the Tegu Sect would cease to exist, but I didn't expect that it was the Lincoln Sect that was destroyed. The backer of the Lincoln Sect is the Lincoln Sect. If they knew about this, they would definitely go to the Tegu Sect to call for punishment. Not only the Holy Spring Sect, the 100-Sect Alliance will not spare the Iron Bone Sect either. After all, there is a rule that allied sects cannot do things that destroy the sect. Yaoyang City is now completely shaken. Whether it is warriors or ordinary people, they are all discussing the destruction of the Lincoln Sect and the leader of the Iron Bone Sect. The news quickly spread to various cities in Qingyang County. Sects such as the Longsword Sect and the Tiger Ore Sect received the news of the destruction of the Lincoln Sect one after another, and they were all in an uproar for a while. What a joke. The Lincoln Sect was actually destroyed by the Iron Bone Sect? When more news came, they were told vividly, so they had to accept this fact. Qingyang City, City Lord's Mansion. City Lord Z also learned the news. He stood in the study with his hands behind his back and said, "First you led your disciples to win the sect martial arts championship, and then you destroyed the Lincoln Sect. Sect Master Jun, you are really a man who can do great things." But he shook his head and said, although the Shenquan sect does not recognize the Lincoln sect, the Fuwei brothers were once disciples of the sect after all. If you killed them, it would be equivalent to provoking a fifth-rate sect. Report. A guard walked in and bowed, saying, "The leader of the 100 Sects Alliance is visiting." City Lord Z said, "You're here pretty quickly." He rubbed his temple and said, "Please come into the reception room." Yes. Reception room. A middle-aged man who walked briskly strode in and said with a bow, "Thank you, City Lord. I haven't seen you for many years. I miss you very much." City Lord Z gestured for him to sit down and said, "Alliance Lord Qin, are you here for the Tegu sect this time?" "Yes." Alliance Lord Qin said angrily, "The Tegu sect is a member of the 100 Sects Alliance. It is against the will of heaven to exterminate the entire sect. Qin came here this time, hoping that the City Lord can." City Lord Z interrupted, "Although the Tegu sect is a member of the 100 Sects Alliance, it is also within the territory of Qingyang City. No matter which force you represent, you cannot touch it. Otherwise, you will be an enemy of the 3.6 million people of Qingyang City." Alliance Lord Qin's face suddenly darkened and said, "Thank you, City Lord. Are you going to protect the Tegu sect?" City Lord Z tapped his fingers on the table and said, "Don't get me wrong. Z is not protecting the Tegu sect. He is protecting the people of Qingyang City." "Okay." Alliance Leader Qin said, "In that case, let's follow the city rules of Qingyang City. Your citizen Jun Changxiao killed the Wei brothers and more than 30 disciples. What should he be punished for according to the law?" "Not guilty." City Lord Z said calmly. "Pa." Alliance Leader Qin slammed the table and said angrily, "City Leader Z, you don't let my 100 Sects Alliance intervene, and you don't punish Jun Changxiao. This is too obvious to cover up." Bang. City Leader Z also slammed the table, stood up and shouted, "Lincoln Sect hired assassins from Xiao Tower and entered Qingyang City without permission. I just want to ask, who gave them the courage? Very fierce, very strong. Xiao Tower assassins?" Alliance Leader Qin was stunned, obviously unaware of the inside story. City Leader Z said coldly, "The conflict between Lincoln Sect and Tegu Sect is just a small one. Wei Yixi is resentful. He first colluded with the bandits and then hired assassins. He did all kinds of despicable things that people in the martial arts world despise. He asked for it to be destroyed." Alliance Leader Qin was silent. He knew that, since Ziguancan said so, he must have evidence. Alliance Leader Qin. City Lord Z said calmly, "If Jun Changxiao has done something unscrupulous, you don't have to come and ask for punishment. This City Lord would have taken action long ago." Alliance Leader Qin calmed down and said in a gentle tone, "How about this, City Lord Z? Please call Jun Changxiao, and Qin will have a talk with him as the Alliance Leader." Ziguancan said, "Since the Tegu faction is a member of your alliance, as the Alliance Leader, you can naturally talk to him. The location can be Xingyu Tower." Alliance Leader Qin understood that this guy was afraid that he would mess up, so he deliberately set the location in his own territory, so he compromised. "Please inform Sect Leader Jun, see you at Xingyu Tower in 3 days." After saying that, he stood up and bowed, saying, "Goodbye. No need to see you off," Ziguancan said. After Alliance Leader Qin left, he sat down to drink a cup of tea, shook his head and said, "Master Jun, this City Lord almost fell out with the 100 Sects Alliance for you." City Leader Z, you can't say that. Jun Changxiao walked out from the inner screen and said with a smile, "You and I are cooperating. It's a win-win situation." As he said that, he put 2 first-grade healing pills on the table. It turned out that this guy had been in the study. He was the one who told Ziguancan about the destruction of Lincoln Sect and what Wei Yixi had done. Jun Changxiao calculated that the 100 Sects Alliance would go to the enemy to punish him, so he came up with a countermeasure in advance and asked city leaders to help suppress it at the cost of 2 healing pills. Destroying a sect is a big deal. Jun Changxiao knew the importance of aftermath. Otherwise, how could he survive in the Xinjiang continent with its swords and shadows and intrigues? Ziguancan picked up a healing pill and said, "Master Jun, can this pill really recover quickly?" Jun Changxiao said, "Does Jun need to light a city lord Z?" Ziguancan looked at him, laughed and said, "You're right. We are cooperating, and it's a win-win situation." Jun Changxiao stood up and said, "I have something else to do in the sect, so I'll take my leave first. Don't forget Xingyu Tower in 3 days." Ziguancan said, "I will come to the appointment." While Jun Changxiao was talking, he had already walked out of the hall, then climbed over the wall and left the city lord's mansion. Ziguancan brought the pill to his nose, sniffed it gently, and murmured, "He destroyed the Lin Kuan sect and came to me for help to suppress it. This kid is really not simple. PS. Please vote for recommendation." Chapter 85. I can't control myself. There are many sects of all sizes in Qingyang County. They formed an alliance several decades ago and elected Qin Horan, the leader of the 6th Stream Heoki sect, as the first leader. The purpose is to develop harmoniously and work together. Except for high-level sects, which can ignore such existence, most sects in Qingyang County will choose to join and become a member of the alliance. Even if a sect does not join the 100 Sects Alliance, it will be despised by other sects. When sect leader Wang founded the Tigu Zhengzheng sect, in order to improve the reputation of the sect, he invited guests to dinner and gave gifts, and then mixed in. Unfortunately, all the efforts were wasted today, because many sects in the alliance were very dissatisfied with Jun Changxiao's behavior of destroying Lin Kuan sect and publicly condemned it. When leader Qin learned about it, he was also very angry. He went to Qingyang City to find City Lord Z in person, hoping that the other party would not interfere in the affairs of the alliance, and decided to severely punish the Tigu sect. Although he hit a snag, he would not give up. As the leader of the alliance, he decided to have a good talk with the leader of the Tigu sect in Xingyu Tower 3 days later. After the leaders of various factions learned about it, they all praised the leader for his wisdom and were willing to accompany him, intending to drown the ignorant guy with their spit. When force cannot solve the problem, verbal attacks become particularly important. The news that the leader of the 100 Sects Alliance summoned the Tigu sect in Xingyu Tower and the Lin Kuan sect was destroyed spread in Qingyang County. Sure enough, the 100 Sects Alliance was alarmed. Jun Changxiao caused a big disaster this time, and he must give an explanation. In my opinion, leader Qin is afraid of being held accountable by the Shengquan sect, so he can only punish the Tigu sect. Many sect leaders have expressed their desire to participate in the talks. In 3 days, there will definitely be many sect leaders coming to Qingyang City. What talks? It's obviously a trial of the Tigu sect. Yes, it's the trial. Warriors from various cities were arguing, and some people were looking forward to how the 100 Sects Alliance would make things difficult for Jun Changxiao in 3 days. Tigu sect, main hall. After returning, Jun Changxiao leaned sideways, with one foot on the chair, and held his chin with one hand, saying, 3 days later, I'm afraid it will be a hangman banquet. Master, Li Qingyang said weakly, did you really destroy Lin Kuan sect? Yes. Jun Changxiao said. Li Qingyang said solemnly, Lin Kuan sect is a member of the 100 Sects Alliance. If the master destroys it, he will definitely be held accountable. Jun Changxiao walked down, patted him on the shoulder, and said, you are the only one in the sect who thinks a lot and has a relatively stable personality. I'm very pleased. Li Qingyang was stunned, and an ominous sign rose. Sure enough, Jun Changxiao said, that night Xingchen was a little troublemaker. As the second disciple, you should discipline him strictly. If he does anything out of line, there are 2 words: abuse. After that, he patted his shoulder and left. Li Qingyang stood there, counting on his fingers, and said in a daze, 2 words? Jun Changxiao returned to his residence in the inner courtyard, sat down cross-legged, and practiced the Yijinjing to absorb spiritual power. The spiritual power between heaven and earth was drawn, gradually enveloping him, forming a light-colored mist. The spiritual power went deep into the body through the pores, gathered in the meridians, and guided to the Danshan cyclone, and merged with it. At each level of the Xingyan continent, functions will be activated, and the function of the martial artist is to open up the cyclone. Don't underestimate this thing. The more and more pure the energy, the stronger the martial artist. After Jun Changxiao's breakthrough, what he has to do is to continuously expand the cyclone, so as to break through the limit again and again, and enter a higher level. Practice for a while. He shook his head dissatisfied and said, the spiritual route is limited, and it is too slow to improve by hard work. The system said, the host can consider refreshing them all. Maybe you can brush out the qualification transformation liquid that can be upgraded to the middle grade spiritual route. Yeah. Jun Changxiao pulled down them all. Ding. Contribution value. 140/500. The 4 points less are due to the opening of the spiritual power array and the sect protection array in the past 2 days. New products are presented in the mall. Jun Changxiao first saw an item called magic modification speaker. He was very sensitive to the word magic modification and clicked on the detailed introduction. Item, magic modification speaker. Introduction, a musical instrument that can play songs, effects, suitable for disciples' morning exercises. After turning on the speaker, the divine song plays to cultivate your mood. Special effects, the host's mind locks on the target within 100 meters. When hearing the divine song, he will be brainwashed and dance to the beat unconsciously. Time limit, ready to use. Disadvantages, the interference of the divine song is only effective once a month for warriors. Those with high cultivation may be immune to the brainwashing of the divine song. Price. 10 contribution points. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, divine song brainwashing seems to be interesting. He took back the detailed introduction and looked at other items again. He found that they had no effect, so he decisively bought the magic modified speaker. After a series of ding-dong reminders, Jun Changxiao refreshed them all. This time, his luck was bursting. There was a qualification transformation liquid among the items. He clicked it and saw that it was suitable for ordinary spiritual routes, but the price was still 50 contribution points. Buy. Ding. The host consumes 50 contribution points and obtains qualification transformation liquid X1. Ding. School contribution value. 80/500. Jun Changxiao took out the qualification transformation liquid, opened the bottle stopper, and drank it without hesitation. It was still the same taste, with a little malt flavor. Ding. The host is using qualification transformation liquid X1, and is transforming the spiritual root qualification. The spiritual root qualification transformation is complete. The host has successfully broken through to the 6th grade martial arts apprentice. The change in qualifications has led to the improvement of Jun Changxiao's cultivation, but it has only been upgraded by 1 grade. After the spiritual root was promoted to the middle grade, the Master Jun had a higher degree of fit with the spiritual power of heaven and earth. After practicing for a night, the effect was remarkable. Not bad, not bad. He walked out of the room with his arms swinging. It was just dawn outside, and everything was so fresh. As soon as he went to the outer courtyard, he saw Ziozuji walking out of the training room, squatting on the stairs, and panting very tiredly. Very hard. Jun Changxiao praised. The disciples got up one after another to wash and came to the martial arts field for routine training. Hurry up. Li Qingyang also came, but was followed by Yi Xingchen. The Lord Yidi lowered his head, but his eyes flashed coldly. What's going on? Jun Changxiao said. Li Qingyang said, Master, junior brother Yi has never done morning exercises since he joined the sect. I pulled him here this time. Humph. Yi Xingchen said coldly, I'm a dignified martial emperor. How can I do childish morning exercises with you mortals? Jun Chang smiled and said, Xingchen, I see you haven't adapted to the sect life yet. Snap. He snapped his fingers and said, in order to make you all have fun together, I must adjust the atmosphere of the sect. Atmosphere. Everyone was at a loss. Pop. Jun Changxiao put the modified speaker in front of the stage in the hall and said, from now on, you will have wonderful music to accompany you during morning exercises every day. Suzaomo came over, looked left and right and said, Master, what is this? Jun Changxiao did not explain. After all the male and female disciples were present, he gently pressed the speaker switch, and the two subwoofers suddenly sounded. Dong 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 dong. Oh my god. Suzuomo, whose ear was pressed against the subwoofer, was frightened when she heard the sound, and then rolled down the stairs in a mess. Like a seaweed, drifting with the waves. Seaweed. The divine music with a very high sense of melody sounded in the Tegu sect's martial arts field. Idiot. Li Xingchen muttered. At this moment, Jun Changxiao pointed his fingers in his direction and said, "Come on, jump up." Li Xingchen's pupils shrank, and he suddenly spread his legs uncontrollably, raised his hands, and then jumped to the beat of the melody of the divine music. The dignified martial arts emperor stood on the martial arts field, dancing and occasionally holding up his whole body with one hand on the ground. The disciples of the sect looked at him with wonderful expressions on their faces. Jun Changxiao pulled off his long gown, put his fingers in his mouth, whistled, and shouted loudly, "Baby, have fun." The thoughts spread and enveloped all the disciples. Then, nearly 100 disciples lined up neatly, following the melody of the divine song, following the beat, and dancing in unison. "Second brother, my body is out of control. I can't control myself. It's so fun. Why didn't the senior sister dance with you? PS. Thank you for the reward. Please recommend it." Exclamation mark. Chapter 86 Attending the Meeting. After being brainwashed by the divine song, the disciples of the Tegu school were refreshed and did not feel tired after practicing for a whole day. This is the effect of the magic modified sound system, which can not only create an atmosphere, but also refresh the mind. However, after the morning exercises, Li Xingchen squatted in the corner, holding his head with both hands, and howled in his heart, "What did this emperor do? What did this emperor do? Where is the dignity? Where is the temper?" Especially when he thought that he was still singing and dancing in public. His eyes were red, and he wanted to tear the ground with his hands, and then drill in. The more Li Xingchen thought about it, the more painful it became, and he raised his head and roared. Swish, the happy football burst over, with a tricky angle. Swish. Li Xingchen's body shifted, and the ball swept past his face. He said disdainfully in his heart, "I'm no longer the person I was a few days ago. Junior brother, be careful behind you." Suzuomo shouted. Li Xingchen was startled, and instinctively looked back, and saw the ball that hit the wall bounced back straight. Bang, plop. Li Xingchen lay on the ground in a big shape. He was not the same person he was a few days ago, but his ability to catch the ball with his face was still there. "I wanted to die. I wanted to be reborn again. Li Fei, what kind of stinky footwork is this? You kicked my junior brother in the face again." The next day, under the divine music, the disciples of the Tegu sect were happily doing morning exercises. Li Xingchen, who was supervised by Li Qingyang, had no choice but to follow the exercises, but he was always silent, like an autistic patient. After the morning exercises, the disciples practiced on their own. Jun Changxiao walked over, sat on the stairs and said, "How do you feel these days?" Li Xingchen, who was sitting next to him, was silent. Jun Changxiao said, "Your eyes tell me that you are a person with a story." Li Xingchen continued to be silent. If he had enough strength now, he would definitely press the head to the ground and rub him hard. Jun Changxiao lay sideways with his hands on the stairs, saying, "Actually, I envy people like you who have a story, unlike me whose life is summed up by the word handsome." Li Xingchen. Jun Changxiao stood up, patted the dust off his butt, and said, "Xingchen, if you hate me for forcing you to join, you can leave now." "Really?" Li Xingchen finally spoke. Jun Changxiao threw him the disciple's entrance form, and pointed to the door and said, "You can leave now, no one will stop you." Swish. Li Xingchen stood up, and walked towards the door. Jun Changxiao crossed his arms and said, "However, you have to think carefully. Leaving here means losing a lot of cultivation resources. If there is any grudge, it will be difficult to avenge it." Li Xingchen stopped and clenched his fists. He really wanted to leave immediately, but after training in the muscle shaping room, his physical body was improved very quickly, and he was a little reluctant. Guessed it right. This guy has an enemy. Jun Changxiao said, I don't know your story, and I don't want to hear your story, but you just need to remember that practicing in the Strongest Sect will only make you stronger. The disciples who were playing football on the martial arts field stopped and looked at Li Xingchen, who seemed to be leaving. Junior brother. Suzaoma picked up the ball and shouted, although our sect is a little weak now, it will definitely become stronger under the leadership of the sect leader. If you leave, you will regret it for the rest of your life. TSK. Li Xingchen snorted coldly. Then, he stepped back and stood next to Jun Changxiao, saying lightly, can you help me break through to the Martial Emperor? He said Martial Emperor. This guy's definitely not simple. Jun Changxiao touched his nose and said, Martial Emperor is just the starting point. If there is a higher realm above, this seat can easily lead you to it. Let's pretend first, and talk about it later. Yi threw the entry list over and said lightly, the disciple is going to practice. Acknowledged as a disciple. Very rare. Could it be that the dignified Martial Emperor was fooled by Jun Changxiao? No, he was just obsessed with the muscle shaping room. Moreover, he needed a place to practice with concentration. Although the Tegu sect was weak, it was at least quiet. Jun Changxiao forcibly pulled him into the sect, and Suzaoma punched and kicked him. These were nothing to Li Xingchen, because the only goal of his rebirth was to pull the Eternal Empress off the altar. Of course, he didn't know that, if he really walked out of the Tegu sect with the entrance form, he would lose not only the shaping room, but also all the memories related to the Yijinjing. Jun Changxiao said, come with me to Qingyang City tomorrow, and take you to see the world. The world? Li Xingchen sneered in his heart. As one of the 10 great martial emperors in his previous life, what world has he not seen? The next day, the disciple continued to practice as usual. Jun Changxiao got ready and led Li Qingyang, Suzaoma, Xiao Zuji and Li Xingchen to Qingyang City. Master. On the way, Li Qingyang said, the leader of the 100 Sects Alliance invited you to go. It's a bit inappropriate to take us to the appointment. Jun Changxiao said, nothing wrong. TSK. So you are going to attend a small county sect meeting. Is this a big deal? Back then, I was on Chixio Mountain, discussing martial arts with the 9 martial emperors, which attracted the worship of all living beings. Li Xingchen thought secretly, this guy is still immersed in the glory of the past, but he doesn't know that he is just a waste in this life. After a few days of practice, Li Xingchen's body is obviously much stronger than before. If there is no shaping room, it is impossible to grow so fast. Unfortunately, he has not comprehended the Yijinjing, and has no clue about the Taixu and Sutra. His cultivation is still stuck at the first stage of opening meridians, or the spiritual root aptitude is too poor. Qingyang City. Jun Changxiao rushed over again. Unlike before, when he led his disciples into the city, the eyes of passers-by no longer had contempt and disdain. The disciples took the top 4 places and destroyed the Linquan sect. At this time, who would dare to regard the Tegu sect as a low-ranking sect? Master Jun, the head of the Li family, came up with a smile on his face. Dad, Li Qingyang called out. This was his first time back to Qingyang City after joining the sect. Jun Changxiao said sympathetically, go and accompany your father to fulfill your filial piety. I will take your fellow disciples to the appointment. This was the purpose of bringing Li Qingyang to Qingyang City this time. Li Qingyang said seriously, Master, after we finish the business, I will reminisce with my father. He is the son of the Li family and a disciple of the Tegu sect. At this banquet, the leader of the alliance and the top leaders of various factions will definitely deliberately make things difficult for him. As the second disciple, how can he not accompany the master? Okay. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, Master Li, I have something else to do. I will visit your house after I finish my work. Then he led 4 disciples to Xingyu Tower. Master Li sighed as he watched his son leave. He knew that Jun Changxiao was going to attend a meeting, and Xingyu Tower was booked yesterday. It was full of leaders of various sects. It would be okay for Qingyang to follow him. There are at least more than 30 leaders in Xingyu Tower. The formation is very large. If I go in and look at so many big shots, I will probably be scared to the ground. Master Jun destroyed Linquan sect, and the alliance is very angry. This time when I go to the appointment, I will definitely be targeted everywhere. Passersby warriors whispered. Ziguancan stood in the study and learned from the guards that Jun Changxiao had entered the city. He murmured, "Boy, this is an internal matter of your alliance. It is not convenient for this city lord to get involved. I hope you can handle it." Chapter 87 Sit down and talk. The generous leader Qin booked the entire Xingyu building, and there was no one inside. There were 5 large round tables on the second floor, 1 in the center and 4 on both sides. Except for the one in the center, there were 8 people sitting at each of the other 4 tables. Sitting alone at the large round table was Qin Horan. He placed his hands on the table, leaned back on the chair, closed his eyes, and rested his mind. The whole body exuded the aura of a long-time superior. The 32 warriors on both sides were the leaders of various factions. Although they were not as powerful as the leader, they also exuded an awe-inspiring aura. Because of their presence, the entire second floor became particularly solemn. At this time, if an ordinary person came in and saw such a battle, he would definitely be scared to the point of shaking his legs. Leader Qin. After a long time, the leader of the Changdao sect couldn't help but say, "It's almost noon. Why hasn't the leader of the Tigu sect come yet? Will he stand us up?" said the leader of the Huxiao sect. "No." Leader Qin said firmly. The matter was contacted through Ziguancan, and he didn't think the Tigu sect would dare to break the appointment. HMPH. A big boss said indifferently, "The alliance meeting is such an important matter," but he was late. It seems that he didn't take the 100 Sects alliance seriously. When he comes, we must ask him if he is familiar with the rules of the 100 Sects alliance. Forget it, sect leader Wei. If Jun Changxiao knew the rules, he would not do such a heinous thing as destroying Linquan Sect. Damn it, that guy destroyed Linquan Sect. If Shenquan Sect comes to hold us accountable, we will definitely suffer. The leaders of various sects were indignant. Judging from their emotions, if Jun Changxiao came, they would definitely drown him with spit. In fact, if other sects were destroyed, they would not be so angry, but the one that was destroyed was Linquan Sect, which had a relationship with Shenquan Sect. Shenquan Sect, that is a sect that is far superior to the sect. Not to mention the top leaders, just one disciple going down the mountain can make me doubt my life. Qin Horan's face also became solemn. The purpose of holding the alliance meeting this time is to represent the alliance, to stand up for Linquan Sect first, so as to give an explanation to Shenquan Sect. Ding ding ding. Suddenly, the sound of going upstairs came. Qin Horan and the 32 sect leaders all looked at the stairs, their eyes flashing coldly. Jun Changxiao's head appeared at the stairs first, and when he saw so many people, he said, "Sorry, I didn't show up in the right way. Please wait a moment." As he said that, he shrank back. Why did he go down again? Humph, I'm afraid he was too scared to see City Lord Qin. If you are afraid, you shouldn't do something to destroy Linquan Sect. Do-de-boo, do-de-goo-boo, do-de-goo-de-doo-boo. Suddenly, a slightly deafening low sound came, startling the sect leaders of each sect, and staring at the stairs. With the background music of the god of gamblers, Jun Changxiao, wearing a mink coat and holding a cigar in his mouth, walked up with a proud step. To coquettish, no way! Exclamation mark. Li Qingyang, Suzaomo and Zio Zuji followed. They stood in a straight line behind the headmaster, with their hands crossed. If they were wearing a black suit and sunglasses, they would look like dark evil forces. Emperor Wu Yixingchen came up with a speaker on his shoulder, looking mad. Damn it. How embarrassing. How shameful. Suddenly, the divine song suddenly changed, singing, "Don't look at me as just a sheep." Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and he said, "Turn it off." Snap. The speaker was turned off, and there was silence. The leader Qin and the 32 heads of the opposite side all stared with wide eyes, their eyes shining with a gleam of "What the hell is this?" Jun Changxiao shook his shoulders. Li Qingyang stepped forward, took the mink coat that he had rented from the town temporarily, and then returned to his original position. Puff. Exhaling a smoke ring, Jun Changxiao said calmly, "Alliance Master Qin, such a big table, but you don't even prepare a chair. Isn't it a bit against the rules of the martial arts world?" The leader of the Jiuliu Iron Fist gang said calmly, "You, the Iron Bone Sect, are you qualified to sit on a chair?" There was a ready-made chair next to him, which was originally reserved for Jun Changxiao, but was deliberately taken back. This approach was supported by the leaders of various sects. Regardless of the status of the sects, the destruction of the Lin Kuan sect alone violated the alliance regulations. What qualifications did the leader of the Iron Bone Sect have to sit on an equal footing with him during the talks? Surely. Jun Changxiao said, "Move the chair over." Yes. Ziozuji walked over. The leader of the Iron Fist gang put one hand on the chair and said calmly, "If you want to take it, you have to be the leader." What kind of disciple are you? The elders of various sects looked at it with interest. The Iron Fist gang is famous for its iron fists. With one hand on the chair, the Iron Bone Sect disciple will definitely not be able to move at all. "Please take your hand away," Ziozuji said calmly. The leader of the Iron Fist gang changed his palm into a fist and said disdainfully, "This leader said that your leader will." Swish. Ziozuji's right arm suddenly swung over, and the power of his body burst out. Not only was the speed fast, but it also brought a gust of wind. The face of the leader of the Iron Fist gang changed drastically, and he subconsciously raised his arms to block. Bang! The powerful lion arm was like a sledgehammer, hitting his arms hard, and the force burst out, directly lifting the man up, and then broke through the window with a bang, and flew out gorgeously. Many warriors gathered outside the Xingyu building, either talking in a low voice, or looking up at the second floor. Suddenly, the window broke, and a person fell from it, and was immediately shocked. My god. The leader of the Iron Bone School just went up, and the alliance took action? Exciting, exciting. Many warriors looked at it intently, and were immediately stunned, because the person who fell from the second floor was not a member of the Iron Bone School, but the leader of the Iron Fist gang. Ah. It hurts so much. Xingyu building, silent. The leaders of various sects stared in amazement as Ziozuji picked up the chair, placed it behind the head of the Tigu sect, and then returned it to its original position, revealing his right arm with beautiful muscle lines. He looked very powerful. That guy is obviously a piece of trash without spiritual power, but he can blow a martial artist away with his physical strength alone. It's incredible. Yi Xingchen was secretly shocked. Jun Changxiao sat down casually, holding a cigar in one hand, and one leg raised, and said lightly, "Everyone, I'm here to keep the appointment." Pa. The head of the Changdao sect slapped the table and stood up, angrily saying, "Jun Changxiao, this is an alliance meeting. Your disciple took action without authorization. Is there any law?" The tone of the word law suddenly weakened, because the head of Jun had already set up the Desert Eagle, nodded down, and said, "Sit down and talk, if you have something to say." The faces of the heads of various sects changed. After the Lin Kuan sect was destroyed, they learned the truth from many sources, and learned that when Yanu died from this silver hidden weapon, a person with 12 meridians was shot dead in an instant. This is a very powerful hidden weapon. The leader of the Changdao sect was furious, but he still sat down obediently. That's right. Jun Changxiao put away his gun, took a puff of cigarette, and said with a smile, "Since it is an alliance meeting, why do you have to stand and talk?" Alliance leader Qin went straight to the point, and said in a deep voice, "Master Jun, did you destroy the Lin Kuan sect?" "Yes." Jun Changxiao did not deny it. Alliance leader Qin said coldly, "The alliance stipulates that members are not allowed to do things that destroy the sect without authorization. You should know this as the leader." "I know." Jun Changxiao replied. Alliance leader Qin's face became more gloomy, and he said, "Why did Master Jun do it when he knew it was impossible?" Jun Changxiao bent down, put his elbow on his leg, and said with a smile, "Because the purpose of my Tigu sect is that if someone offends me, I will offend him." Li Qingyang and other disciples twitched at the corners of their mouths. "My master, the purpose of our Tigu Zheng sect, is it changing every day? P.S. Tickets are coming." Chapter 88, Battle of Words. The purpose of the Tigu sect is to be a man of iron will and do things of iron will, and then to be indifferent to life and death, and to fight if you don't obey. Now there is one more person who offends me, I will offend him. Although the purpose changes frequently, the real emphasis is, don't mess with me. Lin Kuan sect was provoked, so it was destroyed. Humph. The leader of the Changdao sect said coldly, "No matter whether Lin Kuan sect offends you or not, you can't destroy their sect. Jun Changxiao glanced at him and said lightly, if your sect provokes my Tegu sect, the end will be the same as Lincoln sect. Very crazy, very arrogant. The leader of the Changdao sect was furious. The leader of the Huxiao sect said coldly, Master Jun, leave a way out for others, so that we can meet again in the future. You don't understand this rule of the rivers and lakes, right? Jun Changxiao leaned back in his chair, crossed his legs, and said lightly, if you provoke me, just destroy it directly, and there will be no need to see each other again. This guy. The leaders of various sects were furious. In the past, when sect leader Wang was at the 100 Sects Alliance meeting, he always sat at the end in a low profile and didn't say a word. But this second generation sect leader is so arrogant and domineering that it is really unbearable. Another sect leader said righteously, ignoring the rules of the alliance and arbitrarily destroying the members of the alliance is an unforgivable crime. I hope that leader Qin will punish them severely to serve as a warning to others. The leaders of various sects took turns to fight. It was clear that they wanted to use the strongest saliva to drown the most coquettish sect leader Jun. Unforgivable crime? Jun Changxiao said lightly, this Todai sect leader, I would like to ask you, a sect first communicates with bandits, then hires assassins, and plays all kinds of conspiracy methods. What kind of crime is this in the alliance? The sect leader was speechless. Another leader stood up and said, Master Jun, if the matter is true, show the evidence and the alliance headquarters will uphold justice for it. If there is no evidence, it is against the will of heaven and human nature. Uphold justice? Jun Changxiao said indifferently, forgive me for being frank, you don't have justice in your heart, you are just pretending. You. The leader was angry. Jun Changxiao said indifferently, Lincoln sect colluded with bandits and hired assassins. I went out to destroy them with a legitimate reason. What crime have you committed? It is you, the old men who are afraid of Shenquan sect, who talk about the morality of the rivers and lakes all day long, but don't fight against the bandits, but only care about making a living. How dare you talk to me here? You. The leader's voice trembled after being confronted. Jun Changxiao shouted, you, as the leader of a sect, have never done anything for the people, you can only talk nonsense. Now I have destroyed the Lincoln sect that colluded with the bandits, but you are making excuses for them, and you are like a dog with a broken spine, barking wildly here. I have never seen such a shameless person. Puff. The sect leader was so angry that he vomited blood on the spot. Jun Changxiao took a puff of cigarette and said secretly, Zhuge Kangming's words are really fierce. Playing a war of words? Come on, hurt each other. I won't beat you to pieces, and the word internet troll is written backwards. The leaders of various sects broke out in cold sweat. It's a pity that he was scolding Sita Wang. If he was scolding me, I'm afraid he would be so angry that he would vomit 3 liters of blood. Alliance leader Qin's face darkened. Obviously, he didn't expect that a guy who was only 20 years old had such a high skill in scolding people. What should he do next? Jun Changxiao said, let's speak freely. The corners of the mouths of the leaders of each sect twitched. They wanted to speak freely, to say the lines they had prepared before, to condemn severely, but compared with Jun Changxiao's words just now, they suddenly felt weak. Second brother. Suzai almost stood behind and whispered, the leader made that old man spit blood. This is simply terrible. Li Qingyang and Zhao Zuji agreed deeply, and their admiration for the leader reached a new level. Yi Xingchen said disdainfully, in this world, only the weak will refute with their mouths. The real strong can only solve everything with their fists. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, debate with the heroes, and gaining 50 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value. 127 over 500. Sure enough, most of the hidden tasks are related to 4 character idioms. The Xingaiyu Tower was silent, and the leaders of each sect fell silent. At first, they prepared a lot of lines to denounce and criticize Jun Changxiao, but when they saw how ruthless this guy was, they didn't dare to say it out loud. No one is talking? Jun Changxiao stood up and walked to the background table. He pressed a piece of paper on the table with one hand and said, then I will say that from today on, the Tiguz-Heng sect will leave the 100 Sects Alliance. The paper said that the Tiguz-Heng sect will leave the 100 Sects Alliance from now on, and it was also stamped with the seal of the leader. Alliance leader Qin said angrily. Jun Changxiao, the alliance is not an inn. You can't stay there whenever you want, and leave whenever you want. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, we, the Tegu sect, disdain to associate with such an organization that is afraid of offending the Strongest Sect and unites various sects to target its own members. Pa. Alliance leader Qin slammed the table and stood up. Clang, clang. Li Qingyang, Suzaomo and Ziozuji all drew their swords and strode to the front of the sect leader, forming a protective posture. What? Jun Changxiao grinned and said, is Alliance leader Qin going to take action? Qin Hora naturally did not dare to take action. After all, this was Qingyang City, Ziguanqin's territory. He suppressed his anger and announced, from today on, the Tegu sect will be removed from the 100 Sects Alliance. It would be embarrassing if the members withdrew themselves, so he took the initiative to remove himself from the alliance, at least to save some face. Jun Changxiao didn't care and said lightly, as long as I have nothing to do with you guys, I will have nothing to do with you guys in the future. Whether to withdraw or be removed, it's up to alliance leader Qin to decide. With that, he turned and left. The disciples of the Tegu sect sheathed their swords and followed the sect leader. Alliance leader Qin and more than 30 sect leaders could only watch the guy walk down the stairs. Bang. The speakers turned on and sang, don't look at me as just a sheep. The green grass becomes more fragrant for me, and the sky becomes bluer because of me. After Jun Changxiao left, the leader of the Long Sword sect slammed the table and said angrily, this guy's too arrogant. Since the alliance was established, his Tegu sect is the first sect that dares to withdraw. It's good to withdraw. If the Strongest Sect comes to hold us accountable, it won't implicate us. That makes sense. That makes sense. The angry leaders of various sects were a little less angry. The leader of the Long Sword sect said, Alliance leader Qin, since the Tegu sect is not a member of our alliance, it will have no privileges in the future, right? Alliance leader Qin stood up and left. As he walked down the stairs, he said, non-members of our alliance have no privileges. The leader of the Long Sword sect understood and immediately stood up and walked to the broken window, shouting to Jun Changxiao who was leaving, Master Jun, please stay. What's the matter? Jun Changxiao stopped and said. The leader of the Long Sword sect smiled coldly and said, your disciples have won the top 4 places in the sect competition, which shows that Master Jun is extraordinary. I want to learn from you today. I wonder if you are free. You can't beat me, so you change the fight? Jun Changxiao turned around, took a puff of his cigar, and smiled. I'm free. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89. Sorry, I was a bit too harsh. In front of the stage of grievances, Jun Changxiao and the leader of the Changdao sect came over. For a moment, warriors in Qingyang City poured in from the streets, whispering to each other. Master Shen is a 9th grade martial artist. Can sect leader Jun beat him? When the 100 sects were recruiting, sect leader Jun only had the 4th or 5th stage of opening meridians, but he still defeated Elder Wei who had the 12th stage of opening meridians. The strength of a 9th grade martial artist with bare hands is more than 10,000 pounds, which is not comparable to a martial artist with the 12th stage of opening meridians. That makes sense. After some discussion, many warriors were optimistic about the leader of the Changdao sect. The bigwigs of various factions also came to watch the battle. They supported sect leader Shen without hesitation, and even hoped to beat the arrogant Jun Changxiao severely on the stage of grievances. Alliance leader Qin did not leave, but stood at a distance from the stage of grievances and watched. On the 4th floor of a building, Ziguanqin stood with his hands behind his back, puzzled. That guy's not stupid. Why did he accept Shen Tong's challenge? From his tone and eyes, it can be seen that he is not optimistic about Jun Changxiao. It is normal. The Longblade sect is an 8th rate sect, and the sect master is also a 9-star martial artist, which is considered a good master in Qingyang County. What about Jun Changxiao? Many people think that, even if he can kill Wei Yixi, his strength is only a 2nd or 3rd grade martial artist. Master, Li Qingyang whispered, it's a bit tricky. Jun Changxiao put away the electronic cigar and said lightly, "Remember King Yang, in my eyes there are no tricks, only weak hands." As he said, he stepped onto the grudge stage. Ding. Side quest triggered. Jun Changxiao steadied himself and opened the system data panel. The side quest was defeat the leader of the Long Blade Sect, Shentong 0/1, elite quest. Shentong. Why is he not called Yuan Tang? The side quest was triggered, and it was at the elite level, which made Jun Changxiao's eyes suddenly become hot. What does he lack the most? Contribution value. Sect Master Shen jumped onto the grudge stage and said calmly, "Master Jun, should we compete with fists or weapons?" "Whatever." Jun Chang smiled. Sect Master Shen said, "Although my Changdao sect is famous for its long swords, I will not take advantage of Master Jun, so let's decide the outcome with fists." "Okay." Jun Chang smiled and had no objection. He thought to himself, for every level increase in a martial artist, his strength increases by about 1000 to 2000 Jin. Considering his 1500 level increase, and considering his meridian opening in 9th grade martial artist cultivation, his strength should not exceed 15,000. The system said, this person's strength is about 14,000. Jun Changxiao was stunned and said, "Can you tell?" "Yeah. Why didn't you say it earlier? You made me calculate it here." "You didn't ask." Jun Changxiao was speechless for a while, but he also said secretly, "A 9th grade martial artist has only this little strength. It's not difficult to deal with him." Thinking of this, he said lightly, "Let's start." Shentong. Jun Changxiao. After introducing each other's names, Shentong clenched his right hand and rushed over with big strides. A stream of energy ripples visible to the naked eye suddenly spread under his feet. As expected of a 9th grade martial artist, the spiritual power released alone can completely crush the contestants in the sect competition. Li Qingyang's expression became solemn. With the strength of the leader of the Long Sword Sect, it would be impossible for them to win, and they would only lose in seconds. Suzuomo and Ziozuji also thought so. Their strength could be used as a 1st or 2nd grade martial artist, and they could also bully the leaders of the 9th grade sects. When they met a martial artist like Shentong, they would only be abused. "Trash," Yi Xingchen said disdainfully. As a former peak martial emperor, he looked down upon the 9th grade martial artist. If his cultivation was still there, he could kill him with just one finger. "Brother, haven't you recognized the reality yet? You are no longer a martial emperor who can call the wind and rain. You are just a newbie now. Even if you have extraordinary experience, if your strength and body cannot be improved, you will still be beaten black and blue." Bang. Suddenly, there was a bang from the grudge stage. Jun Changxiao crossed his arms and blocked Shentong's heavy punch. His body retreated with a thump 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 and barely stopped at the edge of the area, just one step away from going out. "It hurts." He waved his arms, his face slightly ferocious. Master Shen didn't even use his full strength, but he couldn't hold on. "How weak?" a head of the sect said disdainfully. Little did he know that he was only a 2nd rank martial artist. If he went up to fight Shentong, he would be even worse than Jun Changxiao, and would be knocked off the stage with one punch. Some people are like this, never considering that they are weak, and always laugh at others as a bystander, to enhance their ridiculous sense of superiority. This kid is too weak. I have to suppress my cultivation. If I beat him down, how can I abuse him? Shentong rushed over with big strides and poured spiritual power into his fist, but he only used 50% of his strength. He was not aiming to win, but to abuse Jun Changxiao and make him pay for his arrogance in Xingyu Tower. Whoosh! The fist swung, and the wind whistled. Jun Changxiao's originally ugly face suddenly showed an evil smile. Shentong was alert. Swish. Just at this moment, Jun Changxiao strode over, hit his fist with his right palm, pressed his arm down, and poured spiritual power into his left fist to hit him hard. One rush, one push, one attack. It was extremely fast. Even though Shentong realized that it was not good, he could no longer avoid it, nor could he mobilize more spiritual power. Bang! The fist carrying a force of 10,000 pounds hit the abdomen heavily. The strong force impacted the muscles and meridians, causing Shentong to bend down, open his mouth, and his eyes to open. "It hurts!" Exclamation mark. Swish. Jun Changxiao raised his other hand and slammed his elbow down, hitting Shen Tong's back with a bang. Shen Tong's eyeballs bulged out again, and he fell to the ground with a bang. Hiss. The warriors watching the battle gasped. The two attacks of Sect Master Jun had spiritual power vibrations, and it was obvious that they were powerful and heavy. If they were to hit him, it would definitely shatter his meridians and shatter his internal organs. The leaders of various sects who thought that Sect Master Shen had a sure win and would be able to abuse that guy were stunned. Suddenly, they understood that Shen Tong was acting when he almost knocked him off the stage with a punch just now and was deliberately showing weakness. Zi Guankan frowned and said, the power of the two attacks just now was about 15,000 kilograms. Could it be that he has entered the 9th grade martial arts apprentice? Jun Changxiao is only a 6th grade martial arts apprentice, and he burst out with such high power because the increase is 2,000 kilograms for each grade. To be exact, each grade is increased according to the upper limit. He is so coquettish. One is because of the Ijinjing, and the other is the credit of the muscle shaping room. Yi Xingchen also noticed it and said solemnly, I didn't expect this guy to be so strong. I want to catch up, but I'm afraid it will take some time. Wow. Shen Tong, who fell to the ground, spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale instantly. When he was attacked, he only used 50% of his spiritual power. After enduring two violent attacks from Jun Changxiao, his meridians and internal organs must have been seriously damaged. Jun Changxiao squatted down and said apologetically, Master Shen, I'm sorry, I was a bit heavy. You. Swish. As soon as he opened his mouth to speak, Jun Changxiao grabbed one of his feet and dragged him to the edge of the grudge stage, and then threw him out with a whoosh. Plop. Shen Tong fell to the ground with his forelegs on the ground, and he could no longer support himself, and fainted on the spot. Ding. Defeat the leader of the Changdao Sect 1/1, Elite Mission. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest and obtaining 50 points of sect contribution value. Ding. Sect contribution value 177/500. After completing a hidden mission and an elite mission, and easily earning 100 points of contribution value, Jun Changxiao looked at the leaders of various sects in a very happy mood, and said in a provocative tone, is there anyone else who wants to come up and compete? PS. The Strongest Sect system has been updated with ding sound prompts and is no longer divided into separate sections to facilitate readers' reading. Chapter 90. A good cook cannot cook without rice. Anyone else wants to come up and compete? Jun Changxiao said this with a look of disdain and provocation, and the leaders of various sects below the stage were immediately furious. They are all experienced bigwigs who can stand it. But you must be calm and restrained. Shen Tong, a 9th rank martial artist, was beaten unconscious by him. If he goes up, wouldn't he be asking for trouble? The leaders of various sects glared at him, but no one dared to go up on stage. Looking at a group of bigwigs who were furious and helpless, Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, is this the 100 Sects Alliance? It's nothing more than that. Alliance leader Qin in the distance had a cold look in his eyes and stepped over, wanting to compete with them. Master Jun. Suddenly, Zi Guankan's voice came from behind. He strode over and said with a smile, he defeated Master Shen with 2 moves. His strength is extraordinary. It really opened my eyes. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, thank you for the compliment, City Lord. Zi Guankan looked at Qin Horan and said with a smile, Master Qin, you don't plan to go on stage and compete with a young man like Master Jun. If Master Jun was fine alone, why did he add a young man? This made Master Qin understand that he was telling himself not to bully a junior. Zi Guankan, you are so scheming. Alliance leader Qin said calmly, as a martial artist, Qin will not go on stage to compete with a young junior. City Lord Zi, you are overthinking it. Martial artist? Jun Changxiao said secretly, it's really a bit tricky. City Lord Zi smiled and said, all of you members of the 100 Sects Alliance are here. I guess the meeting is over. Let's go. I will host a banquet for you at the City Lord's mansion. Alliance leader Qin bowed and said calmly, Qin still has things to deal with. I will take my leave first. With that, he waved his sleeves and left. From the back, he looked normal, but in fact, he was full of anger. City Lord Z, my sect still has things to do, so I won't bother you with money. Goodbye, goodbye. The leaders of the various sects would not eat and drink for free at the City Lord's mansion and hurriedly found excuses to leave. When they came, they were all very proud, but when they left, they were a little shabby. How could they not be shabby? Before the meeting started, I wanted to drown Jun Changxiao with my saliva, but I was speechless after being confronted. One sect leader vomited blood, another sect leader was seriously injured, and the alliance leader and the sect leaders of various factions left angrily and dejectedly. This alliance meeting can be described as a complete defeat. Jun Changxiao jumped down from the grudge platform and bowed, saying, "Thanks to City Lord Z for coming, otherwise, alliance leader Qin would have to go on stage to compete with Jun." City Lord Z shook his head and said, "Sect leader Jun, don't be competitive, otherwise, you may run into trouble one day." Jun Changxiao said, "The purpose of my Tigu faction is to develop in a low-key manner. As long as others don't provoke me, I won't provoke others." Li Qingyang and others, who have adapted to the continuous changes in the purpose, have no ripples on their faces. City Lord Z said with a smile, "This time, alliance leader Qin left with anger. I'm afraid it will be difficult for your Tigu sect to survive in the alliance in the future." Jun Changxiao said, "My sect has already withdrawn from the alliance." City Lord Z was startled and gave a thumbs up and said, "Since the establishment of the 100 Sects Alliance, all sects have been scrambling to join, but sect leader Jun took the initiative to withdraw. He is courageous." Jun Changxiao said lightly, "It's just a group of rabble. If my Tigu sect associates with them, it will only damage the prestige of the sect." When the warriors in the distance heard this, they had only one thought in their minds: sect leader Jun is really a great man. City Lord Z wanted to invite Jun Changxiao to visit the City Lord's mansion, but he turned it down and took his disciples to the Li family to let Li Qingyang and his father reminisce. Witnessing sect leader Jun defeating the leader of the Long Knife sect, the head of the Li family was shocked and delighted and hurriedly set up a banquet to entertain him. After eating and drinking, Jun Changxiao left the Li family alone and went to the market to find medicinal materials that could be used to refine pills. The 4 kinds of medicinal materials in the alchemy pavilion, except for the first grade healing pill, which is easy to find, the others are relatively rare. After searching several stores, I could only collect 2 first grade body shaping pills. As for the key gathering pill and the cyclone pill, I didn't have any materials. Jun Changxiao sighed and said, "Although the medicine pavilion can quickly refine medicine pills, without medicine materials, even a good cook cannot cook without rice." The system said, "The host can grow it himself." Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, "Just talking about the 100-year-old ginseng used in the key condensation pill. Even if this thing can be grown, I would have died after it matured, because I didn't complete the main task." The system said, "There are products in the mall that can speed up the growth of medicine materials. It depends on whether the host is lucky enough to get them." Jun Changxiao said speechlessly, "Can't you be more straightforward and come out directly? Do you have to make me rely on my luck to get them?" The system said, "The mall refresh function is to prevent the host from being too dependent on the system. If you want to get the items you need, you must earn contribution points to refresh it." Jun Changxiao said speechlessly, "This lottery-like mode is cheating my contribution points." The system said, "So the host must earn contribution points, because if the contribution points are used up, you will not even be eligible for the lottery." Okay. Jun Changxiao did not argue with it and continued to look for it in the medicine store in the market. When he returned to the Li family, he obtained the following materials: 4 portions of healing pills, 3 portions of body shaping pills, 1 portion of key gathering pills, and 0 portions of cyclone pills. Whether the disciples can quickly improve and become stronger depends on the pills in the alchemy pavilion. Without the materials, it won't work. Is Sect Master Jun worried? As soon as he returned to the Li family, the head of the Li family found that he looked depressed and came to ask. Jun Chang smiled and said, "I have been studying the way of alchemy recently. I lack some medicinal materials. I have been looking for them in the city for a long time, but I can't find what I need." The head of the Li family was surprised and said, "Sect Master Jun knows about the way of alchemy. The foundry masters, alchemists, formation masters, and spiritual masters of the Xingyan continent are the most respected by the world, especially the alchemists and spiritual masters, who are highly respected. Pills and spiritual stones are of great help to the cultivation of martial arts. Many sects have alchemists and spiritual masters, and they are even regarded as guests of honor, enjoying special treatment and special rites. I know a little bit. Jun Chang smiled and replied. The head of the Li family looked even more surprised. The leader of the Tegu sect is indeed not simple. It is absolutely the right choice for my son to become his disciple. Master Jun, although Qingyang City is the main city of Qingyang County, it is relatively weak in the business of medicinal materials. If you want to buy medicinal materials, you have to go to Huayang City. Huayang City? Jun Changxiao thought of the AI family, his eyes lit up, and he secretly said, the AI family has been engaged in elixirs for generations. Maybe they have medicinal materials to make elixirs. The next day, Jun Changxiao said goodbye to the head of the Li family and returned to the Tegu sect with 4 disciples. However, after returning, he found that in front of the red lacquered gate, there was a man wearing a bamboo hat, rough clothes and holding a knife, and his snoring sound was transmitted regularly. It was him again. Who? The wandering swordsman, Ma Yangming. Suzaomo came over, stood in front of him, and shook him with his hand, saying, Master, this guy fell asleep while standing again. Jun Changxiao said, Zuji, carry him outside, don't block the gate here. Yes. Xiao Zuji came and carried Ma Yangming. The other party seemed to be really sleepy, and he was snoring when he was carried away. Swish. Xiao Zuji put Ma Yangming on the stone staircase and turned to leave. Little did he know that he had just put him on the bottom of the staircase, with half of his foot hanging in the air. Now he sleeps as steady as a rock. When he wakes up and stretches, or yawns, his center of gravity will definitely be unbalanced, and then. P.S. The author's words cannot be displayed on questions reading. I will not name the readers who have rewarded me in the past few days. I would like to thank them one by one here. Now there are more than 8,000 votes. I hope that it can exceed 9,000 on the last day of the weekend. If you have any votes, please vote for me. Tegu Pay Exchange Group. 702,705,427. The shy author is waiting for you to flirt with him. Chapter 91, City of Medicinal Herbs. After returning to the Tegu sect, Jun Changxiao has been thinking about how to obtain a large amount of medicinal materials to refine the 4 kinds of elixirs. Needless to say, the more of the first grade healing pills, the better. Even if you can't use them, you can sell them and make a lot of money. The first grade body shaping pills and the key gathering pills, one to strengthen the body and the other to increase the speed of cultivation, are indeed essential for warriors, so the more the better. The cyclone pill is even more awesome. With it, it is easy for disciples to open up the 12 meridians and advance to martial arts apprentices. If all 4 kinds of elixirs are available and inexhaustible, it means that they are invincible and can break through quickly. No. Jun Changxiao said, we must find the medicinal materials as soon as possible. Even if we can't produce them in large quantities, we should refine 100 of them first. Huayang City, we have to go. He didn't leave immediately, but clicked on the interface of the alchemy pavilion and refined 4 healing pills, 3 body shaping pills, and 1 key gathering pill. One person can only take 1 first grade body shaping pill. No more will have any effect. Let's give it to Qianqi and Qingyang and the others first. There are more than 100 disciples in the Tegu sect. Jun Changxiao cannot take care of all of them for the time being, so he can only give it to a few disciples who joined earlier. Master, what is this? Li Qingyang held the first grade body shaping pill as big as a grape and said with a puzzled look. Jun Changxiao said, this is a body shaping pill. After taking it, it can strengthen the meridians and the body. The effect is very significant. Li Qingyang's eyes widened. In his understanding, the strengthening of the body mostly depends on mental skills and hard training. It is really unbelievable that the pill changes. Open your mouth and swallow it. The pill melts in your mouth, and the juice blends into your body, instantly forming a stream of special energy that permeates your body. Soon, Li Qingyang clearly felt that the blood, meridians and every inch of skin in his body were undergoing transformation, and the strength of his body continued to rise. After the transformation was completed, he came to the training room and punched the test machine, showing that his strength was 3,000 kilograms. This is the purest physical strength. He did not use spiritual power. The previous test was 2,500 Jun. After taking the body shaping pill, it increased by 500. Incredible! Li Qingyang exclaimed. Suzaomo also came to test after taking it. He opened the meridians for 12 stages. He did not use spiritual power and punched out 2,000 Jun, which was about 200 more than before. Bang! Suzaomo kicked again with his feet, and the power was 2,500 Jun. Sure enough, during this period of playing happy football, his foot strength and footwork have improved significantly, far exceeding the strength of his fists. The strength of ordinary 12-stage opened meridians is generally around 1,500. Suzaomo's qualifications are not high, and he broke through to 2,000 Jun, which shows that the shaping pill and the shaping machine have a great effect. Lu Qian also took the body shaping pill. Although she was shocked in her heart, she did not show it, and did not come to the test machine to test her strength. This is really a cold little girl. Qingyang. Jun Changxiao ordered, let the disciples enter the shaping room and the spiritual array in batches to achieve comprehensive and balanced improvement. Yes. You are my little apple. Just like the most beautiful cloud in the sky. Spring has come again to the hillside full of flowers. Plant hope and you will reap. In the early morning, the speakers sang the divine song Little Apple. Under the dynamic rhythm, the disciples of the Tigu sect spontaneously lined up and danced to the beat. Yi Xingchen was among them. The steps were stiff, the movements were incoherent, and they looked like they had no desire to live. After morning exercises, the refreshed disciples, under the arrangement of the second senior brother, either entered the shaping room or the spiritual array to start a new day of practice. Jun Changxiao had dinner in the cafeteria and planned to go to Huayang City. He heard a bang and the vermilion gate flew past him and shattered on the martial arts field. Friendly reminder, the protective formation may not be opened every day. My door. Tram. Ma Yangning stomped over, his face bruised and purple, his body covered in dust, and roared, who carried me away? Damn it. Jun Changxiao strode over, poured spiritual power into his fists, and punched and kicked the wandering swordsman. Did my door offend you? Kick it every time. Bang bang. At noon, in the martial arts field, Ma Yangning, who was beaten with bumps all over his head, was waving a small hammer to repair the red lacquer door that was split in two. Hiss. He was not careful and touched his sore muscles, which made him gasp in pain. I'm a dignified swordsman. How can I do such menial work? Ma Yangning's eyes flashed with anger and suddenly threw away the hammer, picked up the knife, and rushed to the door. Li Fei. Yes, senior brother. The disciple named Li Fei put down the happy football, locked onto the fleeing Ma Yangning, kicked and shot the ball, and it burst out. Swish. Ha. Ma Yangning realized that something was wrong, looked back, and was hit in the face by the happy football with a bang, and the whole person fell backwards. What a 100% surefire move to catch the ball with the face. Suzaomo came over, dragged him by one foot, and pulled him to the martial arts field, saying, the headmaster said, before he left that, if you don't fix the door, don't even think about leaving the Tigu sect. But, damn. Ma Yangning was furious, but he could only rub his face, pick up the hammer, and continue to fix the door. Huayang City. Standing on the main street with endless traffic, the headmaster Jun smelled the smell of medicinal herbs in the air, and sighed, it's worthy of being the city of medicinal herbs. As one of the 8 cities in Qingyang County, Huayang City mainly sells elixirs and medicinal herbs, and the AI family in the city is a time-honored pharmacy. Without the time to browse the unique buildings in the city, Jun Changxiao asked passers-by and went to the herbal medicine market. Sure enough, he was in the right place. He only visited one herbal medicine store and collected 5 healing pills. There are at least dozens of herbal medicine stores in the herbal medicine market, which makes Jun Changxiao very happy to visit every store and buy all kinds of medicinal materials for refining pills. After half an hour of shopping, he summarized that he had 20 healing pills, 5 shaping pills, 4 key gathering pills, and 2 cyclone pills. Huayang City, known as the City of Medicinal Materials in Qingyang County, is indeed much better than Qingyang City in terms of medicinal materials, but this number is still not enough for Jun Changxiao, so he had to enter the largest one in the market, AI's herbal medicine store. This young man, do you have any needs? As soon as he entered the herbal medicine store, a smart shop assistant came up to him. Jun Changxiao glanced at the shelves filled with all kinds of things and said, "Call the shopkeeper of your store. We have a big deal to discuss." Big deal? The clerk hurried to inform the shopkeeper in the inner courtyard. Soon, a middle-aged man with a big belly came out and said with a smile, "My name is Ma Zeng, the shopkeeper of the herbal medicine store. May I know who you are?" Jun Changxiao put a herb in the medicine basket and said with his hands behind his back, "The leader of the Strongest Sect." Shopkeeper Ma was surprised and said, "You are Jun Changxiao." Seeing him like this, Jun guessed that the other party must have heard about the big things he had done during this period. Alas, brother is no longer an ordinary person now. He can scare people by revealing his identity. Shopkeeper Ma's face darkened and he shouted, "You beat up my master AI, and you still dare to come to the herbal medicine store? You're quite brave. Come on, catch him." Swish, swish. A group of thugs suddenly rushed out from the inner courtyard and surrounded Jun Changxiao in an instant. The corners of his mouth twitched as he thought to himself, the plot is wrong, right? PS, please vote for recommendation. Chapter 92, A Big Business. AI Family, Hall. AI Shangni, the patriarch of the AI family, was discussing the medicinal materials business in recent days with several elders, with a smile on his face from time to time. AI Shank and another elder were also smiling. During this period, many cities and sects came to purchase medicinal materials. The business was very hot and the profits were better than in previous years. They were naturally in a good mood. Patriarch, have you heard that the disciples of the Tigu sect won the sect martial arts championship? After the business was over, AI Shank began to chat. AI Shangni took a sip of tea and said, "I heard about it. Third brother, you are not wrong. This Tigu sect is not simple," said the second elder AI Shang Fang. AI Shangni said, "4 disciples took the top 4 places in the sect martial arts competition. This is unprecedented in ancient and modern times. It is no accident that the Tigu sect can do it." And he paused and said in a deep voice, "Linquan sect was also destroyed by the leader of the Tigu sect." What? AI Shank and AI Shang Fang were surprised. The two had been practicing in seclusion these days, and the news stayed on the Tigu sect's victory. AI Shang glimpsed that Jun Changxiao went to Linquan Mountain alone, killed Wei Yixi, Wei Yino and more than 30 disciples, and set fire to Linquan sect. "This is too much," AI Shang Fang said with wide eyes. AI Shank said, "Linquan sect is related to Shenquan sect. Tigu sect destroyed it. Isn't this courting death?" AI Shang Fang continued, "Not only Shenquan sect, in my opinion, the 100 Races Alliance will not bypass Tigu sect. After all, the alliance has regulations that members are not allowed to do things that destroy the clan." AI Shang glimpsed, yesterday, alliance leader Qin held an alliance meeting in Xingyu Tower, and they should be discussing how to punish Tigu sect. Puff, puff. A carrier pigeon flew over and landed on the tea table with a small bamboo tube tied to its leg. AI Shang took it down and said, "News from Qingyang City." When he opened it, his expression froze, and his eyes were filled with astonishment. "Master, what's wrong?" AI Shang Fang said. AI Shangni threw the letter over, and AI Shank also came over. After reading it, they both showed surprise on their faces. There were only a few words on the letter, and the content was, "The leader of the Tigu sect severely injured the leader of the Changdao sect with 2 moves. Shen Tong, a 9th grade martial artist, was severely injured with 2 moves." AI Shang Fang said in surprise, "Could the leader of the Tigu sect be a martial artist?" AI Shank recalled the scene of fighting with Jun Changxiao and said solemnly, "No wonder he is so fast. He is a martial artist." The speed of the lingering shadow has been imprinted in his mind and has never been erased. Every time he thinks of it, his back feels cold. After all, if he had the intention to kill at that time, he would have died many times earlier. AI Shangni was silent for a while and said, this Tigu sect is not trivial. At first, when AI Shank was defeated, he was still angry and almost couldn't stop himself, so he took people to the Tigu sect to seek revenge. What about now? His attitude has changed. Destroying the Lin Kuan sect and severely injuring the leader of the Changdao sect means that Jun Changxiao is not simple. The AI family is originally a business, and they value peace. The recent performance of the Tigu sect has been amazing, so they naturally have to consider it carefully. AI Shank said, Master, it is best for our AI family to make friends with such a sect if we can, and we should not make enemies if we cannot make friends. That makes sense. AI Shang Fang agreed. Not good. At this moment, a servant rushed in and said in a panic, Master, elders, someone is making trouble in the herbal medicine store. AI Shank and AI Shang Fang stood up with anger in their eyes. The AI family has been based in Huayang City for hundreds of years, and this is the first time someone dared to come to the herbal medicine store to make trouble. AI Shang Ni said in a deep voice, what's going on? The servant said anxiously, a guy who claims to be the master of the Tigu sect beat up our store guards. What? AI Shank and AI Shang Fang opened their mouths. Just now we were discussing Jun Changxiao, saying that if you can make friends, you should make friends, and if you don't make friends, you can't make enemies. Now you come to the store to cause trouble. This is a bit fucked up. Let's go. AI Shang Ni stood up and walked out. At the door of the AI family's herbal medicine store, a group of warriors gathered, sometimes pointing at the store, sometimes talking, like a real crowd of spectators. Yes, it's the head of the Tigu sect. It's strange. He's not in the Tigu sect, so why is he in Huayang City? The AI family has been based in the city for hundreds of years, and no one has dared to make trouble. The head of the Tigu sect is really brave. If he is timid, can he destroy the Lin Kuan sect? Someone has already notified the AI family. There will be a good show to watch later. Here they come. The AI family's patriarch and elders are here. Someone shouted. Many warriors turned their heads and saw the AI family's patriarch with two elders coming in a hurry with a very serious expression on their faces. Swish, swish. AI Shang glanced at the three people as they walked into the herbal medicine store. One by one, the AI family warriors fell to the ground, holding their stomachs. It seemed that they were beaten so hard that they couldn't stand up. Elder AI. Suddenly, a voice came from the reception room. We meet again. Jun Changxiao was leaning on a chair with his legs crossed. The shopkeeper, Ma Zeng, was standing beside him with his face covered. His calves were shaking violently because the Qinglang Naginata was pressed against his neck. If he moved even a little, his head might be separated from his body. AI Shank's eyes darkened. It was really too much for his subordinates and the shopkeeper to be beaten like this. AI Shank said in a deep voice, Master Jun, what do you mean? Jun Changxiao glanced at the trembling shopkeeper Ma and said, I came to your store to discuss business with your AI family, but the shopkeeper ordered people to take me down, so I had to fight back. Hearing this, AI Shank and the other two understood. AI Shank bowed and said, Master Jun, we can talk about it nicely. Please put down the knife first. If he hadn't heard that the other party had severely injured the leader of the Changdao sect, he would definitely not be so kind. That's right. Jun Changxiao took back the knife and said, if he was as polite as Elder AI, things wouldn't have come to this. Plop. The knife on his neck was gone, and shopkeeper Ma collapsed directly on the ground, with cold sweat on his forehead. The injured warrior was carried away, and the frightened shopkeeper Ma was also helped away. Only Jun Changxiao and 3 senior executives of the AI family were left in the entire store. The 4 of them sat in the reception room, and the atmosphere was a little solemn. AI Shang Ni suppressed his dissatisfaction and said, Master Jun wants to discuss business with my AI family? Yes. Jun Changxiao said, a big business. What business? AI Shang Ni became interested. The world is big, and business is the biggest, which has always been the purpose of the AI family. Jun Changxiao put a piece of paper on the table and said, how many medicinal herbs are written on it? How many do you have in your AI family, and how many do I want? AI Shang Ni and the 2 elders looked at each other and picked up the paper. There were 12 kinds of medicinal herbs written on it, some common and some rare. Master Jun. He raised his head and said, "Are you sure you want as many as you want?" From the look in the eyes of the AI family's head, Jun Changxiao saw that the AI family should have a lot of the medicinal materials he needed, so he said very seriously, "Yes, I want as many as I want." AI Shangni said, "Master Jun, just talking about the rarest leaves of the tahur among these medicinal materials, my AI family has more than 200 plants. It will cost a lot to buy them all." More than 200 plants? Jun Changxiao's heart was in turmoil. There are 3 kinds of materials for cyclone pills. The first 2 are easier to match, but the leaves of the tahur are hard to find. The AI family has more than 200 plants. If you buy them, you can refine more than 200 cyclone pills in minutes. I want them all. Jun Changxiao said without hesitation. 4 kinds of medicinal materials for pills must be obtained, even if they are sold at all costs. AI Shangni pinched his fingers, narrowed his eyes slightly, and after some calculations, he said, "Master Jun, if you want all the medicinal materials above, you will need to pay at least 100,000 taels. 100,000 taels? Jun Changxiao clasped his hands and said with a smile, "No problem. P.S. Thanks to I was lucky to meet you, Qian Long, and Erwin Johans Eugen Rommel, a very naughty name, for their awards. Please vote for recommendations in the new week." Chapter 93, Violent Sales of Healing Pills. After robbing the bandits' treasure house and receiving the reward, Jun Changxiao was worth 50,000 taels. Rebuilding the inner courtyard cost about 10,000 taels. Could he collect 100,000 taels? Yes, yes. After the Iron Sect cleaned out the treasury, not counting the various precious martial arts, there were 10,000 taels of gold alone. The 2 elders, AI Shangni and AI Shank, looked surprised. 100,000 taels is not a small amount. It is incredible that a 9th-rate sect can come up with so much. Master AI, Jun Changxiao said with a smile, "How long will it take to transport these medicinal materials?" AI Shangni thought for a moment and said, "If Sect Master Jun is in a hurry, it can be transported in 2 hours. In a hurry?" Jun Changxiao said. He couldn't wait to get the medicinal materials and pull out the alchemy furnace to make a large amount of elixirs. AI Shangni looked at AI Shangfang and said, "Go and notify the elders of the medicine store to transport all the medicinal materials needed by Sect Master Jun to the medicine store." Yes. AI Shangfang received the order and turned to leave. 2 hours was a bit long, so AI Shangni started chatting. "Master Jun bought so many medicinal materials, are you going to make pills?" Jun Changxiao said, "Yes. The AI family is in the business of pills and medicinal materials, and there may be demand in the future." His tone was relatively gentle, not as arrogant and domineering as the one in Xingaiu building. This is Jun Changxiao. He can ruthlessly destroy the Iron Sect, or sit down and chat with the head of the AI family who just met like an old friend. This is because the AI family emphasizes peace. If it were a martial arts family, they would have drawn their swords to fight if their subordinates were beaten in their own store. AI Shangni was surprised and said, "Is it Master Jun who is making pills?" "Yes." Jun Changxiao said. AI Shangni's eyes were filled with more surprise, and he said, "Master Jun has extraordinary cultivation and knows the way of alchemy. He is truly a dragon among men." As expected of a businessman, what he said made Jun Changxiao embarrassed. He said modestly, "Jun is just learning one more skill. If I don't become the master in the future, I can still make a living." AI Shangni and AI Shank's mouths twitched. The way of making alchemy is not like being a chef. You can't learn the skill by just picking up a spoon. It depends on your qualifications and physique. According to statistics from relevant departments of Xingaian continent, there is only one person with alchemy qualifications in every 100,000 people, which is quite rare. AI Shangni said, "Since Sect Master Jun regards alchemy as a craft, you must have achieved a very high level of accomplishment, right? Not bad." Jun Changxiao had just finished speaking when an idea came to his mind, so he leaned forward, clasped his fingers together, and said, "By the way, Master AI, does your AI family collect elixirs?" AI Shangni smiled and said, "My AI family is engaged in the purchase and sale of elixirs. The AI family's elixir shop has branches in various cities in Qingyang County. At least half of the elixirs sold there are collected, which can be regarded as buying a brand. Jun Changxiao said, I have a healing elixir here. Is the master AI interested in purchasing it? The master AI hesitated for a moment and said, to be honest with Sect Master Jun, healing elixirs are the most common elixirs. We have a lot of them in our AI family, and there is no demand for them for the time being. Jun Changxiao leaned back in his chair and said, Master AI, please forgive me for being blunt, but your AI family's healing elixir is just a pile of garbage. AI Shangni and AI Shank were startled, and their eyes were filled with anger. The healing pills sold by the family have always been of high quality. It is definitely unacceptable to be described as garbage. Jun Changxiao took out a first grade healing pill, put it on the table and said, Master AI, you can take a look at the healing pill I made. AI Shangni said indifferently, Master Jun, there is nothing special about your pill. As a veteran who has been dealing in pills for many years, the quality of the pills can be roughly judged at a glance. The first grade healing pill is indeed not outstanding, and the color is also dim. When it was taken out to save leaking Guiyang, Lu Kai and Qian thought it was an ordinary wound medicine. Jun Changxiao said, please take a closer look, Master AI. AI Shangni and AI Shank looked at each other, picked up the healing pill, released spiritual power to cover it, and shook his head and said, Master Jun, this is indeed very ordinary, just like the healing pill that a beginner tried to make. You, the AI family, have been dealing in pills for generations, and you really don't know the goods. How about this? Jun Changxiao said with a smile. How effective is my healing pill? Master AI can ask shopkeeper Ma, who was injured just now, to come and verify it. AI Shangni winked at AI Shank, who nodded and walked out of the reception room. Soon he brought Ma Zheng here. Swish. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao rushed over, and his fist was filled with spiritual power, hitting his big belly hard, directly making it concave. Puff. Shopkeeper Ma's eyes suddenly opened wide and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Jun Changxiao went around behind him, threw him to the ground with an over-the-shoulder throw, and then punched him twice. The process happened quickly. When shopkeeper Ma lay on the ground half dead, AI Shangni stood up angrily and shouted, Jun Changxiao, you are going too far. For the sake of business, he could ignore what happened just now. Now that he attacked shopkeeper Ma and beat him up like this, even a clayman would be angry. Jun Changxiao returned to his seat, held his face with one hand, and made a gesture, saying, shopkeeper Ma is seriously injured. Please ask Patriarch AI to try the elixir. If he cannot be cured immediately, I'm willing to cut off my own meridians. In order to promote the elixir, he beat someone violently and bet on suicide. This operation is absolutely double-click 666. Cure immediately? AI Shangni said coldly, Master Jun, do you think the healing pill is an elixir? As he said that, he walked in front of shopkeeper Ma and threw the first grade healing pill into his mouth. After all, the attack just now was too heavy. If he didn't treat it quickly, his life might be in danger. AI Shank even took out his own elixir. However, before he poured out the healing pill in the bottle, the half-dead shopkeeper Ma suddenly stood up from the ground. Thump, thump, thump. AI Shangni and AI Shank were so shocked that they stepped back repeatedly, with horror on their faces. Shopkeeper Ma, who was beaten half to death by Jun Changxiao, stood up straight. It was so shocking. Shopkeeper Ma raised his hands and said in a daze, is the injury healed? AI Shangni and AI Shank's eyes gradually widened. Jun Changxiao's consecutive attacks just now were quite violent. This guy must be seriously injured. Even if he is treated in time, he will inevitably lie in bed for 3 months. After taking a seemingly ordinary healing pill, he actually stood up by himself and could even speak. What the hell? Or is it just a joke? AI Shangni had experienced many storms after all. He stepped forward and put his hands on the meridians of Ma Zhang's wrist. He poured his spiritual power into it and saw that the meridians in his body were intact. He was instantly petrified. AI Shank also rushed over and put his hands on the meridians of the other hand. He saw that the other party had no internal injuries. His brain went blank with a bang, and he was stunned on the spot. The injury was so serious, but he recovered quickly. This is not a healing pill. This is an elixir. AI Shangni, AI Shank, and Ma Zhangyi were all confused, like three human art sculptures standing. Jun Changxiao folded his hands and smiled. Master AI, how effective is Jun's healing pill? AI Shangni came back to his senses and hurried over. He put his hands on the table and said with an extremely solemn expression, Master Jun, how many of these healing pills do you have? My AI family will take as many as you want. A seriously injured person will recover immediately after taking it. The efficacy of the healing pill is simply terrifying when you think about it carefully. Any businessman with a normal mind would think that once it is sold, it will definitely cause a huge sensation. Jun Changxiao smiled and said, the price? Master Jun, you can set it yourself. AI Shangni said. Jun Changxiao touched his chin, thought carefully, and said, 10,000 taels each. Okay. AI Shangni agreed without even thinking about it. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched, and he secretly regretted, did I get less? PS. I update the old book and the new book together. The protagonist of the old book is Yun Fiang. If the protagonist of the main text suddenly changes his name, it must be a mix-up. You can leave a message to remind me, and I will modify it in time. Please vote for recommendation on Monday. Chapter 94 Hidden Mission Rewards. It is very common for warriors in the Xinjiang continent to be injured or seriously injured. If someone is not injured and has not experienced lying in bed for 10 days or half a month to recuperate, he would be embarrassed to say hello to his peers when he goes out. Therefore, Jun Changxiao's healing pills can make seriously injured people heal instantly, which is absolutely enough to be described as heaven-defying. The head of the AI family, who has been engaged in elixirs for many years, instantly smelled out with his keen sense of smell that the value and profit of this elixir are very high. Not to mention 10,000 taels, he would not hesitate, even if it was 50,000 taels. Jun Changxiao was very depressed, but he could not change the price he offered, and said, head of the AI family, I have refined 10 of these healing pills. After Ma took one, there are still 9 left. If you want all of them, give me 100,000 taels. He still has 21st grade healing pills. Not all of them are sold. One is to keep some for backup, and the other is to raise the price next time. As for these 10 healing pills, sell less if you sell less. Just take it as a trip and test the water. AI Shangni was extremely collapsed. If he knew from the beginning that the healing pill was so amazing, he would definitely not give it to Ma Quan. After all, it would take a good operation and promotion, and it would not be a problem to sell it at a sky-high price. Okay. The head of the AI family said readily, for these 9 pills, my AI family is willing to pay 100,000 taels. Jun Changxiao put the pill bottle containing 9 healing pills on the table and said, Master AI, do you want to pay with silver bills or medicinal materials? AI Shangni said, my AI family has always followed the rules in doing business. We deal in one thing, and we will not use goods to pay. As he said that, he waved his hand and took out a thick banknote from the space ring, which was exactly 100,000 taels. Oh my god. With so much money when going out, the head of the AI family is not afraid of being robbed. Jun Changxiao did not take back the banknotes and said, Master AI, although the healing pill can recover from injuries, my alchemy skills are limited, and it is only applicable to the level of opening meridians and martial arts apprentices. AI Shangni's face changed slightly. He also thought about buying the healing pills and increasing publicity to let the whole Qingyang county know about it, so as to sell them at a sky-high price. If it is only used for opening meridians and martial arts apprentices, it will be very limited. It can quickly recover from injuries. Even if it is only used for opening meridians and martial arts apprentices, it is very scary. Rich families and sects will definitely scramble for it. AI Shangni thought for a while and said, Shank, bring the contract. Yes. AI Shank took out a sales contract. As expected of a professional business family, he had to sign and seal it. Master Jun, AI Shangni said seriously, I hope that the effect of these 9 pills is the same as the one just now. This is worried about being cheated. Jun Changxiao leaned over and said, Master AI, please rest assured. Since I'm here to sell pills, I will not cheat. AI Shangni also believed that the head of a sect would not do such a thing. The two signed and pressed their handprints one after another, and a pill transaction was completed. Jun Changxiao then unceremoniously put the 100,000 silver bills into the space ring. The materials for 10 healing pills cost several hundred teals, but they were sold for 100,000 teals, and the profit was terrifying. Jun Changxiao began to fantasize that with enough medicinal materials, he could refine more healing pills to sell, and then spend a lot of money to expand the Iron Bone Sect and build it as magnificent as the Imperial Palace. The elixir business was settled, and the two of them had a passionate exchange. More than an hour later, AI Shangfang walked into the herbal medicine store and said, "Master, the medicinal materials that Master Jun wants are ready." As he said that, he put down several space rings. AI Shang glanced and stretched out his hand, smiling. "Master Jun, please check the goods. This kind of space ring does not need to recognize the owner, and anyone can peek." Jun Changxiao merged into it one by one, until he counted the medicinal materials inside, and then said, "The medicinal materials are of good quality. Master AI, please give a price." "Master Jun, these medicinal materials are a total of 100,050 teals." AI Shangfang said. AI Shang and I said, "Master Jun, just give me the whole amount." Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his hand lightly, and 10,000 teals of gold piled up like a small mountain in the reception room. Although gold is more valuable than silver and silver notes are still the main means of exchange in Xingqiu continent. Jun Changxiao did not use the 100,000 teals of silver notes he had just obtained, but gave the gold directly, because he did not want to go to the bank to exchange it separately. TSK. The head of the AI family raised his thumb and said, "You just gave me 10,000 teals of gold. Master Jun is really generous." As he said that, he winked at AI Shank, and the other party took out a contract. Obviously, this time the sale of medicinal materials had to be signed and sealed. Very regular, very particular. Jun Changxiao picked up the pen and signed his name. When the head of the AI family also put his fingerprint on his name, he suddenly heard a crisp system prompt in his ear. Ding. "Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task. Spend all the gold and gain 20 contribution points." Ding. "Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task. Spend all the gold and gain 50 contribution points." Ding. Contribution value of the sect. 245/500. No way. Spending gold is also a hidden task? Ding. "Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task. Spend all the gold, triggering a hidden reward. The right to purchase the qualification transformation liquid has been transferred to the purchased goods column. There are hidden rewards?" Jun Changxiao hurriedly opened them all and clicked on the purchased goods column. He saw that the originally blank grid had an additional qualification transformation liquid. Click on the details. The content is item, qualification transformation liquid. Effect, it can transform one's own qualifications and improve one level on the original basis. Note, it can only be used by those with medium quality qualifications. Time limit, lifetime. Price, 50 contribution points. Seeing that the effect is used for medium quality qualifications, Jun Changxiao suddenly laughed out loud, scaring the three senior executives of the AI family next to him. What happened? When the three people were confused, Jun Changxiao bowed and said, "Master AI, I will take my leave first. Please." AI Shangni and the two elders hurried to see him off. It's out. Outside the herbal medicine store, the crowd of spectators became active. They waited for 2 hours, just to see how the head of the Tigu faction would deal with the trouble. However, when they saw the master of the AI family and the two elders accompanied Jun Changxiao out with a smile on their faces, the expressions on everyone's faces suddenly froze. Coming to the store to make trouble, the owner still smiled and saw him off. This plot is not right. Master AI, goodbye. Master Jun, have a good journey. Under the gaze of the crowd, Jun Changxiao walked away. Ding. The host consumed 50 contribution points and obtained qualification transformation liquid X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Contribution value of the sect, 195/500. After leaving the city, Jun Changxiao bought the qualification transformation liquid and drank it in one gulp. Ding. The host uses qualification transformation liquid X1 to transform the spiritual root qualifications. The spiritual root qualifications transformation is complete. The host has successfully broken through to the 7th grade martial arts apprentice. After upgrading from the middle grade spiritual roots to the upper grade spiritual roots, Jun Changxiao's cultivation was driven and upgraded to another level. With the improvement of spiritual roots, he also has a higher degree of fit with the spiritual energy existing between heaven and earth. When walking on the road, he can feel them following him like a shadow. At that moment, Jun Changxiao finally understood why Li Qingyang, who has upper grade spiritual roots, was called a genius rarely seen in a century. Awesome. What's even more awesome is that when I returned to the sect, I opened the alchemy pavilion. Because the medicinal materials were in the space ring, all 4 kinds of elixirs on it were ready to be refined. PS. Thanks to Ye. 185 ******* 82. Best. Days mode activated. I don't understand your heart, and I don't want to understand it. I especially thank +++ for the 10,000 rewards. Please vote. Chapter 95. Refresh them all when you're bored. Jun Changxiao spent 100,000 teals. How many materials did he buy for refining pills? More than 800 first grade healing pills. More than 400 first grade shaping pills and key gathering pills. More than 200 cyclone pills. Most of the 100,000 teals were spent on the medicinal materials of the last 3 kinds of pills, and the proportion of medicinal materials for healing pills was relatively small. Refine. Jun Changxiao clicked on the refining button of the first grade healing pills without returning to the sect. Ding. Ding. A crisp sound rang in his ears, and pills appeared in the space ring like glass balls. In a short time, more than 800 first grade healing pills were refined. For an experienced alchemist, even refining the most ordinary healing pills would take at least several months. Jun Changxiao said, "This alchemy pavilion is really too powerful." After the sect was built at level 2, he was concerned about various upper limits at first. In fact, the real awesome thing was the alchemy pavilion that could refine pills with one button. Jun Changxiao is now very much looking forward to the casting pavilion that will be opened after the construction is upgraded to level 3. With the template of the alchemy pavilion, he guessed that the casting pavilion should also have the function of casting weapons with one click. Pills and weapons. They are extremely important to the warriors of the Xingyan continent. If they have both, how can they not be strong? Although he thought about it, it was still too far away from upgrading the sect construction to level 3. After all, the number of people was not enough, and the sect tasks could not be triggered, and it was difficult to obtain achievement points. Continue to make pills. Jun Changxiao hurried on his way while refining pills. The beautiful ding 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 sound rang in his ears, and the pills continued to gather in the space ring. However, there was a small problem next. When refining a large number of primary body shaping pills, the speed was obviously not as fast as refining healing pills. The system said, although the alchemy pavilion can refine pills in an integrated manner, if the pill level is relatively high, it will take a long time. Is that so? Jun Changxiao didn't care. After all, it wouldn't be much slower. Half an hour later, all 400 copies of the body shaping pills were out of the furnace, and it took an hour to refine 400 copies of the key gathering pills. After refining all 3 kinds of elixirs, he began to refine the most important cyclone elixir. As a result, he rushed for 2 hours and only finished refining all 200 points when he returned to Tegu sect. It's a bit slow. Jun Changxiao murmured. More than 1,800 elixirs in total, relying on the alchemy pavilion, came from Huang City to Tegu sect, and all were refined in less than 4 hours. This guy actually had the nerve to complain about the slowness. Master, the gate has been repaired. What do you think? Suzayama pointed to the red painted gate erected on the martial arts field, just after entering the sect. Not bad. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Where is that guy? Locked in the cell. Suzayama said. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, you locked him up with the 2 killers. What if a fight breaks out? Master, don't worry, the 3 of them are very honest. Suzayama grinned. Really? Jun Changxiao got up and went to the cell. Through the gap between the door and window, he saw Ma Yangning sticking to the wall, holding a knife and looking at the two killers. The atmosphere was a little solemn. After a while, Ma Yangning said, "You two, you have been watching Ma for a long time. Do you want to learn from each other?" Gold medal killer. Killer. Clang. Ma Yangning drew his sword and said in a deep voice, "Ma has been in the martial arts world for many years. I have seen all kinds of battles. Don't think that you can scare me by wearing black. Come on. Let's compete." The gold medal killer and the killer looked at each other and thought, is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Master, how should they deal with it? Suzaomo said. Jun Changxiao turned around and said, then Ma Yangning will be released after a few days of detention. As for the two killers, they will be kept in custody for the time being. Yes. Jun Changxiao went to the training room, trained for 2 hours, took a shower, and returned to his residence. People from the AI family. Sitting in the study, he murmured, it's time to start planning how to promote the first grade healing pill. Yes. AI Shangni and the senior executives of the AI family are now discussing in the hall how to sell the few healing pills and maximize profits. Jun Changxiao rested his hands behind his head and said, I forgot to tell them not to tell outsiders that I made the pills. There is no need to worry about this. AI Shangni is a shrewd businessman. Without his authorization, he would never reveal it. After all, he is afraid that his peers will intercept it. Call the disciples tomorrow, distribute the pills, and let them each have one. Spending so much money and refining so many pills, Jun Changxiao hopes that he will become stronger and his disciples will also become stronger. Otherwise, how can he become the strongest sect within 100 years? After staying in the study for a while, he returned to the bedroom, sat cross-legged on the bed, and practiced the Yijinjing, and began to absorb the spiritual power of heaven and earth. With a superior spiritual root, he is faster in absorbing and refining spiritual power, and the benefit is that the speed at which the Danshan cyclone gathers energy will also increase. At this time, even if he does not rely on the system upgrade function, his realm will not be slower than leaking Gyang. After several spiritual root transformations, the head of Junda can be regarded as breaking away from the ordinary roots and gloriously becoming a good genius. It's just the beginning. Jun Changxiao's goal is a divine spiritual root. After 2 hours of practice, it was late at night outside. Jun Changxiao boredly opened the attribute panel and clicked on the primary mall. Rows of products were presented. After browsing them one after another, he found that there was nothing useful, so he decisively pulled down to refresh. Ding. Sect achievement value 185 over 500. There are many new products. When Jun Changxiao scanned them one by one, he suddenly stood up with excitement. The product in the last grid of the second to last row is a modified QBU-88 sniper rifle. Gun. Sniper rifle. Domestic sniper rifle. Jun Changxiao was very excited and a little bit unbelievable. I got a sniper rifle? I got a sniper rifle. Ahaha. Ahahaha. The laughter broke the silence of the night and woke up all the sleeping disciples. They asked in confusion, where did the goose cry come from? The system couldn't help but complain. There is only a 0.1% chance, and this can be swiped out. The host is dog shit lucky. Refreshing out of boredom and directly swiping out a sniper rifle, it is indeed a heavenly luck. Jun Changxiao calmed down and ignored the system. Instead, he excitedly clicked on the detailed introduction. Item, magic modification, QBU-88 sniper rifle. Introduction, the prototype is the sniper rifle of the Chinese army. After the magic modification, it is suitable for the high-level martial arts world. The bullets are condensed by crystal cores for long-range precision shooting. Effects, fast rate of fire, long range, and strong penetration. Time limit, permanent. Disadvantages, although it has been modified, the bullet capacity is only 10 rounds, and the recoil is large. It needs to be supported on the ground to shoot, otherwise use it with caution. Price. 100 contribution points. Jun Changxiao saw the price and said with his eyes wide open, a magic modified sniper rifle is comparable to 2 bottles of qualification modification liquid. The system said, the host can choose not to buy it. If I don't buy this, my head must have been kicked by a donkey. When Jun Changxiao spoke, his mind had already clicked on the purchase. Ding. The host spent 100 contribution points and obtained a magic modification, QBU-88 Sniper Rifle X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Contribution value of the sect. 85/500. Before the prompt sound ended, Jun Changxiao had already taken out the 88 sniper rifle. The rifle was nearly 1 meter long, very heavy and substantial, and even more impressive was that the gun body was sprayed with camouflage green. Swish. With a thought, he took out the magic modification 8-fold scope and stuck it on the aiming slot. Jun Changxiao held it up with his left hand, supported it with his right hand, closed his left eye, and leaned his right eye against the lens and said, "Men should play with sniper rifles. PS. Thanks to 135 ********** 92. Lai Lanyingshi for the reward. Please vote. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Sniper vs Killer. When he raised the Type 88 sniper rifle, Jun Changxiao felt like he could kill gods and immortals. The system poured cold water on him at an inopportune moment, saying, although the sniper rifle is powerful, without high-level crystal cores to condense bullets, its power is about the same as that of the Desert Eagle. How about using the crystal core of the Earth Flame Wolf King to make bullets? Jun Changxiao said. The system was silent for a while, and said, not bad. Jun Changxiao merged himself and his gun into the space ring, took out the crystal core of the Earth Flame Wolf King, and loaded the bullets in the same way as the Desert Eagle. Ding, ding, ding. After a while, the magazine of the Type 88 sniper rifle arranged 10 bullet-shaped lights, indicating that all the bullets were loaded. As for the energy in the crystal core of the Earth Flame Wolf King, it was all exhausted. Oh my god. Jun Changxiao said in surprise, it consumes so much energy. With one Earth Flame Wolf crystal core, the Desert Eagle can continuously supply 14 bullets. The system said, the sniper rifle is extremely powerful, so it naturally consumes more energy to condense the bullet. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, if I fire a shot, the recoil will be sky high. So, the system said solemnly, if you don't have a strong body, it's best to use a bipod to support the shooting. Click. Jun Changxiao opened the folding bipod, set it on the window, then leaned towards the lens, and aimed at the distant night. Ding. Detect that the sniper rifle is equipped with bullets. Ding. Do you want to turn on the 8-fold scope enhanced mode? Hearing the system prompt, Jun Changxiao thought to himself, what the hell is enhanced mode? Although he didn't understand, he still shouted in his heart, turn it on. Ding. The host successfully turned on the 8-fold scope enhanced mode, consuming 5 contribution points. Ding. Sect contribution value. 80/500. Fuck you. Jun Changxiao cursed, deducting contribution points, are you so pitiful? Huh. Suddenly, he felt the 8-fold realm tremble slightly, and he hurriedly looked at it, and the expression on his face suddenly froze. In the sight, you can clearly see a hare looking for food a few hundred meters outside the sect. Oh my god. Jun Changxiao said in disbelief, this is perspective. Swish. Move the sniper rifle and aim in another direction. As long as the field of vision is within reach, all the animals that appear at night can be seen clearly. Jun Changxiao couldn't hide his excitement and said, I'm Lulei Buddha now. Swish. Move the position again, and aim at the male disciples room, and you can see Li Qingyang, Suzaomo and others in the room clearly. Some of them are practicing, and some are sleeping. Jun Changxiao raised his gun, and aimed at the female disciples room. Just as he was about to move, he suppressed the idea and said seriously, Jun Changxiao, you are the leader of a sect. How can you do such a dirty thing as peeping at female disciples? Yeah. Just take a small look. This guy still aimed his gun at the female disciples room, but his eyes suddenly became cold and fierce, because when he moved, he found 3 men in black lurking behind a rock a few hundred meters outside the sect. Killer. Why the hell are they here again? Just as the eightfold scope locked onto several men in black, a slight voice came from his ear. Old 8 must be trapped in the Tigu sect. We must find a way to rescue him. This small Jiuli sect, could it be a dragon's den and a tiger's lair that allowed 4 killers from Xiaoyu Tower to go in and never come out again? In an instant, Jun Changxiao judged that he had eavesdropped on their conversation, so the corners of his mouth twitched and he said, "Perspective, eavesdropping, worthy of the enhanced mode. This Tigu sect is a bit weird. We should observe in secret before taking any action. Friend, don't be secretive. Your existence, even whispered communication, is nowhere to be hidden under the lock of the Eightfold Realm. The owner of the building only gave us 3 days, and there is only 1 day left. If we don't kill the leader of the Tigu sect and rescue Liu Bei, it will be difficult to report back. Kill me." Jun Changxiao's eyes became even colder. He had guessed that the killer came to kill him before because he was hired by the Lin Kuan sect, and this time the killer came again because of Xiaoyu Tower unilaterally. It's understandable to take money from people and eliminate disasters for them. Jun Changxiao said coldly, "But you come to provoke me without an employer. Xiaoyu Tower, you are courting death." He dared to destroy the Lin Kuan sect, so naturally he dared to destroy a killer organization. Swish. Jun Changxiao set up a sniper rifle and walked out of the room, jumped onto the disciples' room, climbed down, opened the bracket, and aimed the muzzle at the stone. Swish. In the field of view of the eightfold scope, the crosses automatically locked onto the head of a man in black. It is worthy of being a modified eightfold scope, with perspective, eavesdropping, and automatic aiming. It is simply too powerful. Click, the bullet was loaded, and the safety bolt was pulled. At this time, Jun Changxiao only needed to pull the trigger and shoot, and he would hit the locked killer with 100% chance of hitting him and making a headshot with 1 shot. Yi Xingchen, who was practicing, felt a little dust falling from the roof, but he didn't take it seriously. He continued to practice the Yi Jingjing, gathering spiritual energy to attack the second meridian. After midnight, we will sneak in quietly. The man in black who poked his head out from the edge of the stone whispered, completely unaware that there was a sniper lying on the roof of the sect in the distance, with the muzzle of the gun locked on his forehead. The killer mainly focuses on assassination. The sniper also mainly focuses on assassination. The professions are similar, and they look like ghosts. At this moment, Master Jun is holding a sniper rifle, and it is a duel between 2 ghost professions. But, this guy is cheating, turning on the automatic aiming perspective, and the killer has no place to hide in front of him. I have explored from a high place. Jun Changxiao lives in an independent courtyard. I will rush in later, and kill him as quickly as possible. I can't alarm the disciples of the Iron Bone Sect. Don't worry, 4th brother, we will definitely be clean and neat. Humph, Jun Changxiao will not escape this time. The 2 men in black sneered. Ding. The side quest is triggered. Pulling open the data panel, the task is kill the killer lurking outside the sect 0/3. Elite task. Jun Changxiao raised a smile and said, Zishi. He didn't rush to shoot, because the 2 men in black were hiding behind the rocks. When they all appeared in the field of vision, he would shoot them one by one. Ha. Jun Changxiao took a breath, and the fingers holding the gun began to relax, preparing to withstand the recoil after shooting. Time passed, and it was midnight. Action. Swish. The leading man in black jumped out from behind the stone with a tiptoe, and jumped on the tree one after another. It was obvious that he was a professional gold medal killer. Unfortunately, no matter how cool and elegant he was, he could not escape the automatic lock-on aiming of the magic modification. At this time, Jun Changxiao could hit the target, even if he closed his eyes and shot. Wait for the other 2 men in black to come out. Swish, swish. After a while, the other 2 men in black came out from behind the stone. They did not stand together, but moved forward from different directions. Quite professional. Jun Changxiao moved the muzzle of the gun slightly, locked on the man in black jumping in front, and pressed the finger on the trigger hard. Bang. A loud noise came, and Yi Xingchen, who was practicing in the room, jumped off the bed, crossed his hands, and said with great vigilance, "What's going on?" Bang, bang. Just at this moment, 2 more loud noises like firecrackers came out, shaking Yi's eardrums, and making his eyes look horrified. Ka. Suddenly, there was a shattering sound above his head. He suddenly raised his head, his pupils shrank violently, and cried out in grief, "Fuck you." Boom. The wing room collapsed, and dust flew. "What's going on?" Li Qingyang and Suzaomo, who were nearby, ran out in pajamas, and saw Li Xingchen's house collapsed. They stood there dumbfounded. PS. Please vote. Chapter 97 Spiritual Power Martial Arts. 3 deafening gunshots woke up all the inner courtyard disciples and they gathered around. "Junior brother Yi is buried. Quick, quick, dig him out." The disciples worked together. Some moved bricks, some carried beams, and in a short while, they lifted the dusty Yi Xingchen out. Fortunately, he had undergone muscle building machine training during this period, otherwise he would have fainted long ago. "Senior brother." Suddenly, Suzaomo exclaimed, "It's the headmaster." "What?" Li Qingyang hurriedly jumped to the ruins, and saw that the headmaster's leg was exposed, and his whole body was buried in it. Dig. Dig. Everyone continued to move, and soon lifted the dusty Jun Changxiao out, and he grinned and said, "Waste, waste, be gentle. What's wrong with this? What else can he do?" He pulled the trigger of the 88 type sniper rifle, and fired 3 shots outside. Although he killed 3 killers one by one, and completed the side mission, the huge recoil almost shook him out of internal injuries. This is still supported by a tripod. If he raised it to shoot, he would have bounced directly from the disciples' room to the cliff behind. Damn, it's really powerful. Jun Changxiao secretly thanked himself for having enough strength. If it was the opening phase, he would have been killed by the recoil after firing a shot. Although he was completely powerless, he was relieved that he was rewarded with 100 contribution points for completing the side quest. The contribution value of the sect is now 180, and the contribution value of buying the 88 type sniper rifle is considered to be earned back, which only wastes 3 bullets and 5 contribution points. There is also a disciple's room. The recoil of the 88 type sniper rifle is indeed strong. However, under the shaping of the muscle shaping machine, Jun Changxiao only rested for 1 night, and his stiff body relaxed. He shook his arms, walked out of the sect, and came to the forest. Of the 3 gold medal killers who attacked last night, 1 was shot directly in the head, and the other 2 were pierced through the chest. The reason why they didn't headshot all of them was because after Jun Changxiao headshot the first one, he found it too bloody and cruel, so he changed the 8-fold realm to automatically lock the chest. I won't talk about the first killer who was headshot. The other 2 killers had wounds as big as fists. Jun Changxiao looked back along the shooting track and saw that the rocks in the distance were blown to pieces, so he twitched his mouth and said, "I didn't shoot with a sniper rifle, I shot with a cannonball." Swish. He squatted down, and after a search, he found 3 space rings from the 3 killers, and then burned the bodies with exquisite fire. There was only one body movement called ghost step in the space rings of the 3 killers. The silver was less than 100 taels, so Jun Changxiao accepted it, and gave the rings to Li Qingyang, Suzaomo and Ziozaji. "Thank you, master." The 3 put on the rings and bowed. "Qingyang," Jun Changxiao said, "gather the disciples, I have something to announce." "Yes." Soon, all the 100 disciples gathered and lined up in the martial arts field. Jun Changxiao came out, and, after a passionate speech, began to let them collect the 4 kinds of pills, so that everyone had 1 of each kind. The effect of this healing pill is that no matter how serious the injury is, as long as you take it, you will recover immediately. As for the first grade body shaping pill, after taking it, the strength of the body will. Jun Changxiao introduced the effects of the pills one by one, and the disciples holding the 4 kinds of pills stared with wide eyes. So magical? Yi Xingchen was also surprised. In his previous life, although he did not understand the way of alchemy, he had eaten many high quality pills. Healing pills that can instantly recover injuries are definitely unheard of. As for strengthening the body and increasing the speed of cultivation, he has seen them. However, those are all high-end goods. How can a 9th rate sect produce them? And everyone has one. Yi Xingchen had doubts, but when he saw the disciples swallowing the body shaping pills, he opened his mouth half believingly and threw the pill into his mouth. When the effect of the medicine came into play, he felt the transformation of the blood and meridians, and his expression changed again and again. Bang! Li Fei, 7th level of meridian opening, strength of 1100 Jin. Bang. Zhang Wei, 6th level of meridian opening, strength of 930 Jin. Bang. After taking the first grade body shaping pill, the Tegu sect disciples tested their strength one by one under the witness of the second senior brother. Yi Xingchen, who was standing next to him, twitched his mouth. These teenagers had ordinary qualifications, but they were able to hit out stronger strength than their level, which was incredible. Normally, one level would increase by 100 Jin. After the 5th level of meridian opening, one could hit out 700 Jin of strength, which was considered as natural supernatural power. After a test, the Tegu sect disciples who took the body shaping pill generally had strength 150 to 300 Jin higher than their original level, which was like natural supernatural power. If it was a group of top grade spiritual roots, it would be understandable. In fact, only a small number of people have middle grade spiritual roots, and most of them are low grade spiritual roots. This also means that the first grade body shaping pill can ignore the level of spiritual roots and forcibly increase the initial strength value of the Iron Bone school disciples. Not bad, not bad. After getting the test data, Jun Changxiao nodded with satisfaction and said, King Guiyang, tell them not to relax, continue to practice, and strive to enter the 12th stage of opening meridians as soon as possible. Yes. In the morning, accompanied by divine songs, Liu Wanxi's top meals, as well as spiritual power arrays and shaping rooms, the Iron Bone school disciples are very happy and practice very hard. They know that they can become stronger day by day, all because of the cultivation of the headmaster. In order to repay them, they can only constantly break through themselves. One after another, some disciples successfully opened their meridians with the help of spiritual power arrays and shaping rooms. Counting the time, they have been in the Iron Bone school for almost 2 months. How is their martial arts progress? From the beginning, the average cultivation level was only 2 or 3 stages, and it has risen to the 7th stage of opening meridians, and they can open a meridian almost every few days. Jun Changxiao sat on the 1,000-year-old Nanmu chair in the main hall and murmured, within a month, all the disciples should be able to enter the 12th stage of opening meridians. Master. Suzaomo ran in excitedly, unable to hide her excitement, and said, the disciple has broken through to the martial arts apprentice level. The success in condensing the cyclone in the Danshan and breaking through to the martial arts apprentice level was also due to taking the cyclone pill. After a while, Shanqi also came over to report the good news. Master, the disciple has broken through to the martial arts apprentice level. Jun Changxiao said, not bad, not bad. Including him, the Tegu sect already has 5 martial artists, which is rare among the 9 raid sects. After practicing for 2 hours, Jun Changxiao opened the attribute panel again, and watched them all where the sniper rifle was refreshed last time. He soon saw a martial art called I/. Click on the details, item, I/. Introduction. It was originally a martial art with only half a move, but was later modified by a mysterious master to become a complete move. Function. Gather spiritual power in the palm of your hand to form a crescent-like stream of light. Advantages. After being modified by a mysterious master, it is easy to learn, powerful and consumes less spiritual energy, and is suitable for long-range combat. Disadvantages. It can only be practiced by martial artists. Price. 10 contribution points. Level. Intermediate beginner. Only intermediate beginner? Jun Changxiao lost interest immediately. After all, the Yi Jinjing that he refreshed before was only at the initial stage of the divine product. The system said, anyone who can be called a mysterious and powerful being must be a super powerful being who knows everything. The martial arts that he personally modified, although at a low level, must have infinite uses. The host is recommended to buy 5 stars. Really? Jun Changxiao's point was on the purchase. After all, it was only 10 points, and it was not expensive. Ding. The host consumed 10 contribution points, and obtained Wozen X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value. 177/500. Ding. It was detected that the host purchased spiritual power type martial arts from them all, and it was automatically matched to the sect's skills. PS. Thanks, Xiang. Reward, Gaoshuo, Texas. Please recommend votes. Chapter 98 A Miracle Comes. Automatically match spiritual power martial arts? Jun Changxiao's mind moved, and he opened the complete system panel. Sect name, Strongest Sect. Sect leader, Jun Changxiao. Sect level, Jiu. Sect construction, level 2. Sect function, alchemy pavilion. Sect skills, Yijinjing, divine grade elementary, Wozan, middle grade elementary. Sect members, 102/500. Sect contribution value, 177/500. Sect achievement value, 0/500. Sect mission, none. Sect mainline mission, within 100 years, omitted here. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, disciples can also practice this martial art. While speaking, he clicked on the sect skills, selected the Wozan martial art, and directly copied 1000 copies. Ding. The host consumes 10 contribution points and copies the Wozan secret book X1000, which has been transferred to the space ring. Jun Changxiao took out a book and flipped through it and said in surprise, it is indeed easy to understand. As he said that, he started to run according to the meridian operation diagram on the secret book. In less than 10 minutes, he felt the spiritual power gathering in his palm. He walked out of the hall and stood on the martial arts field, waving one hand in the void. Swish, the spiritual energy in his palm erupted, forming a crescent shape, sweeping close to the ground, and finally hitting the wooden stake erected a few days ago. Bang! The wooden stake exploded on the spot, and the disciples turned their heads to look over in shock. Oh my god. Suzaomo approached with his mouth open and said in surprise, Master, what kind of move is this? Jun Changxiao clapped his hands and said with a smile, Wozan, a spiritual power-based martial art. Spiritual power-based martial arts? Suzaomo's eyes widened immediately. In his understanding, the martial arts that gather spiritual power to attack are called spiritual power martial arts, and they are very rare in the market and extremely expensive. Here, Jun Changxiao threw a copy of Wozan to him, patted him on the shoulder and said, take it and practice. If you can't learn it, cut off your own meridians. Then he turned and returned to the main hall. Suzaomo took the secret book and saw the words Wozan written on the cover. His eyes suddenly became hot, and he said loudly, disciple will definitely practice successfully. After returning to the main hall, Jun Changxiao called Lu Kai and Qian, Li Qinggang and Shanqi over, gave each of them a copy of Wozan, and asked them to practice. Spiritual power martial arts? Oh my god, this is not easy to find. The master is so good to us. Lu Kai and Qian saw the words medium grade initial stage and had no intention of practicing it, but after opening it, she found that the formula was simple and easy to understand, so she began to try to practice it. After the disciples of the Tigu school learned about the spiritual power martial arts, they practiced harder, because the master said that anyone who entered the martial arts apprenticeship could obtain it. Try harder, try harder. The cultivation atmosphere of the Tigu sect is more intense, and the strength of the disciples is also increasing every day. As for the wandering swordsman Ma Yangning, he was released after being detained for 5 days, but he stayed in the sect and could not be driven away no matter what. Why not leave? Because during the days of detention, he was deeply impressed by Liu Wanxi's cooking skills, squatting on the steps of the cafeteria with a knife in his arms and begging for mercy. Can you have some shame? Jun Chang smiled. Ma Yangning, half lying, with a look of I'm just a shameless person, said, Master Jun, let's write off our grievances. As long as I stay and eat Miss Liu's food every day, I can do anything. Jun Chang smiled. Damn it, I shouldn't have given him food earlier. Master. Liu Wanxi blinked and said, the cafeteria is still short of a dishwasher. Why not let him stay and do odd jobs? Okay. Ma Yangning stood up and showed his rough hands and said proudly, Ma's hands are born to be used for washing dishes. Jun Changxiao held his chin and said, Dudu is busy in the cafeteria every day. It's time to find some helpers to share the chores for her. Zhao Mu. Here. Pull the two killers over and let them do odd jobs in the cafeteria. If they don't cooperate, there are 2 words, torture me severely. Yes. Suzutomo went to the cell, and on the way, the corners of her mouth twitched and she said, "These two words are long enough." In this way, Ma Yangning and the two killers started fighting in the cafeteria, and they were all willing, because the food cooked by Liu Wanshi was so delicious. In ancient times, there was a strong and unyielding Wang Maomao, who could betray his country with a bowl of fried rice. Today, there are cold-blooded and ruthless killers, who bow their heads after a few meals. The disciples were practicing tirelessly, while Jun Changxiao began to think about Xiao Tower, saying, "The 3 assassins sent to kill me have not returned yet, so they will definitely take action again. Should we destroy them? No. Jun Changxiao gave up the idea, because 3 consecutive assassinations had triggered side quests twice. This assassin organization was definitely sending rice. If it was destroyed, wouldn't it be the same as cutting off the food supply? The system said, "The host thinks too much." Nonsense. Jun Changxiao said, "I should think less. How can I survive in the cruel Xingyue continent in the future?" The disciples of the Tigu school devoted themselves to cultivation. Jun Changxiao was not idle either. He either walked around the cultivation room, or comprehended the Yijinjing in the inner courtyard. During this period, Qingyang County was in an uproar, because the AI family in Huayang City announced a newly developed healing pill that can quickly recover from injuries. How fast? The slogan said that, as long as you still have a breath, as long as you still love the world, take a healing pill, and you will recover quickly in a few breaths. Your waist and kidneys will be good, and you will be good, and he will be good too. Is it so exaggerated? This was the first reaction of the Qingyang County warriors after hearing the news. But thinking that the AI family has been engaged in elixirs for generations, they should not spread rumors to destroy the brand reputation that they have worked hard to accumulate. 3 days later, the AI family will hold an auction of healing pills in Huayang City. It is said that only 9 pills will be auctioned. Many families and sects have rushed over. Let's go and see the excitement. In a short period of time, Qingyang County warriors poured into Huayang City from all directions. The number of people was even greater than the audience of the sect's martial arts competition. It can be seen that the pills that can quickly heal injuries are very attractive. Of course, many families and sects are skeptical. The AI family also understands that, if they want to convince them of the efficacy of the pills, they must provide proof. So after the auction started, they pulled out the son of the Song family in Sunyang City, who had been paralyzed in bed for many years. It's the second son of the Song family, the second talent of Qingyang County, who was once second only to Zhao Zuji, was attacked by a low-level 5th grade beast during a field training, and ended up paralyzed all over. It's really heartbreaking. The AI family invited him here to prove the efficacy to us. The second son of Song has been paralyzed in bed for so long. Can he really be cured with a healing pill? Everyone was talking about it. Everyone. AI Shangni walked out and said, "To prove the effectiveness of the healing pill newly developed by the AI family, I reached an agreement with the head of the Song family yesterday to buy him one for 30,000 taels. Everyone can be a witness to whether it can cure the second son of Song." As he said that, he handed the pill to the head of the Song family. Everyone looked at him. The head of the Song family's hand holding the pill was trembling a little. Yesterday, the AI family repeatedly guaranteed that the pill was absolutely effective, which inevitably made him excited and unable to control himself. Dad, the second son of Song, was half lying on the chair, his face pale, and said, "Give it to the child, even if it is poison, it doesn't matter." As a genius second only to Zhao Zuji, because he was paralyzed in bed and unable to move, he had already died of despair. If he could move, he would have ended his life early. The head of the Song family came over and personally fed the pill to his son, hoping for a miracle with tears in his eyes. The miracle came. After taking the pill, the second son of Song's hands trembled slightly, then he straightened his waist in front of everyone, and finally, he stood up with great effort. PS. Thanks to Mobay, ++ for the rewards. Please vote for recommendation. Chapter 99 caused a sensation. I stood up. Dad. I stood up. I stood up. The second son of the Song family was ecstatic. Tears gathered in his eyes, and his legs trembled slightly before gradually adapting to the long-lost support. 3 years. More than 1,000 days. He spent them in bed. For a warrior, a genius with extraordinary qualifications, this is definitely a torture worse than death. Today, the second son of the Song family stood up. He felt the heaviness of the earth again, and felt that his body belonged to him. What made him even more excited was that after the broken meridians were connected, his cultivation was still the 7th stage of opening meridians before paralysis. Swish, swish. He clenched his hands suddenly, and 7 light circles surrounded him. Excitement, excitement. All kinds of emotions filled his heart, making it difficult for the second son of the Song family to control himself, and tears flowed down his cheeks. Men don't shed tears easily, but they are not excited yet. Seeing his son stand up, seeing his pale face turn red, and seeing the gathering of spiritual power light circles, the hands of the old master Song trembled, and his eyes were also soaked with tears. The warriors at the auction venue stared with disbelief. The son of the Song family, who had been paralyzed in bed for 3 years, took a healing pill, and not only stood up, but his cultivation was still alive and well. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you would never believe it. Ai Shangni secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At first, he was quite worried whether the healing pill could cure people with long-term illnesses. Now that it has been verified by the son of the Song family, the next auction will definitely be not bad. Very popular, super popular. The major families and sects witnessed the heaven-defying effects of the pill, and their eyes flashed with enthusiasm. Everyone. Ai Shangni walked to the auction table and said loudly, "The healing pill developed by my AI family is suitable for martial artists and meridian opening. As for the effect, I believe you have all seen it. Let's start the auction. Only suitable for martial artists and meridian opening?" Many warriors looked regretful, but think about it, if there is no level limit, no matter how serious the injury can be cured, it would be too terrifying. Must buy. The wealthy families and sects made a decision in their hearts. Looking forward to it, Ai Shangni said loudly, "The first healing pill starts at 10,000 teals, 20,000 teals, 30,000 teals, 35,000 teals, 40,000 teals." As soon as the auction started, the major families and sects started bidding fiercely, and those warriors who were short of money could only shut up and withdraw their bidding ideas. After a fierce bidding, the first healing pill was auctioned by the 6th flows in Iron Sect at a price of 100,000 teals. This is a sky-high price. The Iron Sect fought so hard not because they had a lot of money, but because a disciple had been seriously injured for many years like the son of the Song family, and it has been difficult to heal. These days, who doesn't have a few patients in each family and sect? Can you guarantee that you will not be injured for the rest of your life? When the Iron Sect bid for the healing pill at a price of 100,000 teals, many warriors realized that this kind of pill that can quickly recover from injuries is destined to become a luxury that people sigh in despair. Yes, a luxury. Because the other 7 healing pills that were auctioned next, the families and sects with deep financial resources and backgrounds fought to the death, and the transaction prices were all 100,000. The last one was even sold for 120,000 teals. A healing pill was actually worth the price of 12 spirit stones, which was absolutely shocking. However, after the auction, the matter was not over. The news that the AI family's healing pill quickly cured the second son of the Song family swept through Qingyang County like a storm. Is it true? The son of the Song family was paralyzed for 3 years, and countless famous doctors were unable to cure him. A healing pill cured him in a few breaths. Is this a rumor? I went to Sunyang City the day before yesterday and saw with my own eyes that the son of Song was walking briskly on the street. He didn't look like a patient who had been paralyzed for 3 years. If the recovery of the second son of Song still made many people half believe and half doubt, then not long after, the seriously injured direct disciple of the 6th flows in Iron Sect came down the mountain, which made them completely believe it. For a time, the matter of the healing pill caused a huge sensation, and even spread to other counties. All forces with sick people in their families rushed to Huayang City. However, when they arrived at the AI family, the answer they got from the head of the AI family was, "This kind of healing pill with magical effects is really difficult to refine. Please wait for the auction news and come back to buy it in the future." Many forces left reluctantly. Families or sects with genius patience chose to stay in Huang City temporarily, waiting for the day when the AI family's healing pills were available for sale. So, did anyone have any bad ideas? Yes, but they were forced to give up later. After all, it is an old-fashioned elixir family. On the surface, they don't have much strength, but they have made many friends. If you offend the AI family, it is equivalent to offending the world. Goodbye Jianghu, that's right, if you offend me, you will be killed in one stroke. Master. One day, Suzuomo said, in Huang City, the patriarch of the AI family is here to visit. Jun Changxiao, who was practicing, opened his eyes, raised his lips and smiled. Please invite Patriarch AI into the hall. Yes. Suzuomo withdrew. Jun Changxiao touched his nose habitually and said, it seems that Patriarch AI has sold the healing pills. AI Shangni's visit was expected, but I didn't expect him to come in just a few days. Sect Hall. Jun Changxiao stepped out and bowed, saying, Master AI's visit makes our Tigu sect proud. As the leader of a sect, he had to be polite, not to mention that they were partners. AI Shangni, who was sitting on the side, stood up quickly, bowed and said with a smile, I haven't seen you for a few days. Master Jun's cultivation has improved a lot. After some politeness, he went straight to the point and said, Master Jun, all 9 healing pills have been sold. How much? 850,000 taels. Master Jun seemed calm, but he was roaring in his heart. I must have been kicked in the head by a donkey at that time, asking for only 10,000 taels. Master Jun. AI Shangni put a stack of banknotes on the table and said with a smile, these 200,000 taels are dividends, please. As expected of a businessman, he is particular. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and put the banknote into the space ring and said with a smile, I really did not choose the wrong long-term partner. Long-term cooperation? AI Shangni was overjoyed and said, Master Jun, do you have healing pills? Jun Changxiao held his cheek and said with a smile, isn't it for this matter that the head of the AI family came to visit this time? AI Shangni was quite embarrassed when his thoughts were pointed out, but he also bowed and said, it is an honor for AI and the AI family to be trusted by Master Jun. Businessmen, everything is about money. Healing pills can bring huge profits, so he will naturally spare no effort to flatter him. Jun Changxiao said, Master AI, you are too polite. You and I are now the most sincere partners. As he said, he put the pill bottle on the table and said, I still have 10 healing pills here. Master AI can take them to sell. As for the price, just give 1 million. AI Shangni said straightforwardly. Jun Changxiao swallowed the 500,000 back when he heard it, and he strongly despised himself in his heart. Jun Changxiao, look at your little potential. He said straightforwardly, deal. The head of the AI family hurriedly took out a silver note of 1 million taels, as well as a sales contract. After signing and sealing, the deal was concluded. But before leaving, Jun Changxiao reminded, head of the AI family, I don't want to show up, so I cooperate with the AI family. I hope you understand. I understand. I understand. Understand what? Understand that the head of the Tigu sect doesn't want people to know that this heaven-defying healing pill comes from his hand. After the head of the AI family left, Li Qingyang came to see him and said, Head, when will junior brother Yi's collapsed wing be rebuilt? Jun Changxiao casually threw a stack of silver notes and said, rebuild it. Just give me the inner courtyard according to the Imperial Palace forbidden area to rebuild, and expand the outer courtyard by the way. Li Qingyang held the thick silver notes, counted them a little, and exclaimed, 100,000 taels. P.S. Please vote. Chapter 100 Where are the people? Where are the people? Li Qingyang, holding 100,000 taels of silver, was stunned. Coming from a wealthy family, he had no idea about money, but he also knew that this amount was very large. It was a luxury to use it to rebuild the Tigu sect. Li Qingyang hurried back to his room, picked up a pen and ink, and began to design a renovation sketch on rice paper. The inner courtyard had to be rebuilt, and the outer courtyard had to be expanded. This was a big project, and it had to be carefully conceived and planned. After a night of design, the sketch came out. The location of the main hall of the Tegu sect in the outer courtyard remained unchanged, still located in the northernmost part, but everything else was moved, the martial arts field was enlarged, and more buildings were added. The inner courtyard was also changed a lot, not only adding greenery, but also adding many rooms, enough to accommodate thousands of disciples. Of course, Li Qingyang also took Liu Wanshi into consideration, and specially divided out vegetable fields and animal pens. With sufficient financial support, this is definitely a drastic renovation. Once completed, it will be a brand new Tegu sect. Not bad. After reading the sketch, Jun Changxiao was very satisfied. Li Qingyang pointed to several blank areas on the pattern and said, "Disciple has decided to build a wing room here first. After completion, everyone can move in first, and then renovate other areas, so that there is no need to live in the outer courtyard." Jun Chang smiled and said, "You have considered it very carefully." The task of renovating the sect was handed over to Li Qingyang, because he valued his steady and cautious character. Simply put, he is suitable to be the chief steward. This requires the division of elders' duties, and Li Qingyang is definitely the internal affairs elder. "Master, when will the renovation begin?" 3 days later. "Yes." Li Qingyang withdrew, and Jun Chang smiled and touched his chin, saying, "When the sect renovation is completed, we will open the mountain gate to recruit disciples, and as soon as possible, we will have 500 people to trigger the sect mission." The sect construction was upgraded to level 2, and he did not recruit disciples immediately, hoping to strengthen this batch of disciples first. AI Shangni returned to the AI family with 10 first-grade healing pills. However, he was not in a hurry to auction them, but was waiting for the news to spread and let more forces know. Previously, 9 healing pills were sold for 850,000, and I spent 1 million to buy 10 from Jun Changxiao. No matter how you look at it, it seems like a loss-making deal. No. AI Shangni has absolute confidence that the second auction will make the price of 10 healing pills far exceed 1 million taels. If a businessman cannot speculate on the price of a pill that defies the heavens, he is not worthy of the 3 words businessman. Of course, AI Shangni was also thinking at the same time, if the healing pills spread and alarmed the big forces and big sects, how would he explain it with an excuse? 3 days later, a large number of craftsmen entered the Tegu sect and began to expand the inner courtyard. Because it was built in another area, it did not affect the disciples living and rest, but continued to practice as usual. "Master." One day, Li Qingyang came to report, "Last night, 9 more disciples opened the 10th meridian. Except for junior brother Zio, junior brother Yi, and junior sister Liu, the other disciples have reached the 10th level of opening the meridian. Not bad, not bad." Jun Changxiao said with satisfaction. Calculating the time, this batch of disciples has just been recruited for 2 months. From the 2nd or 3rd stage to the 10th stage, the improvement speed is still quite good. Let them continue to work hard. Anyone who breaks through the martial arts will be given the secret book of I Kill. Jun Chang smiled. "Yes." Li Qingyang withdrew. Jun Chang smiled and went to the training room. Zio Zuji was shaping in the muscle shaping room, and there were still 2 hours left. Crack. Just at this time, the door of another shaping room opened, and Yi Xingchen, who was beaten and bruised, slid out, and then gasped. Since the collapse of this guy's room, he has been practicing in the training room, and his strength is not inferior to Zio Zuji. Not to mention, the progress made is very great, and the originally slightly weak body has become much stronger. As for the realm, it has also broken through from the 1st stage of opening meridians to the 3rd stage of opening meridians, and the burst of strength has reached about 800 kilograms. Normally speaking, with Yi Xingchen's physical qualifications, it would be good to hit 400 Jin. The extra 400 Jin is also due to the Yijingjing, Taixuanjing, the shaping room and the 1st grade shaping pill. Jun Changxiao can also see that he has changed a lot during this period, so he smiled and said, "Do you still feel wrong to join the Tegu sect?" Yi Xingchen was silent. Before, he must have been upset that he was forced to join the Tegu sect after being reborn as a dignified martial emperor, but now, yes, it smells really good. Swish. Jun Changxiao went into the shaping room. After 2 hours of shaping, He came out and saw Zyrozuji swinging the test machine again and again, and the power on it kept changing. 3,000 Jun. 3,200 pounds. Bang. The last punch was thrown out, and the power was fixed at 5,000 pounds. Without opening the meridians, just by tempering the body, the strength reached the level comparable to that of a third-grade martial artist. It was incredible. However, Zyrozuji did not feel happy at all, but lowered his arms in frustration. Jun Changxiao walked over and said, "What are you thinking about, Master?" Zyrozuji paused and said bitterly, "During this period of training, my body has reached its limit, and it is difficult to make a big improvement." Jun Changxiao said, "The real strength of a martial artist is not only in the body, but also in many aspects, such as weapons and equipment. Follow me." He took Zyrozuji to the back mountain, summoned the QBU-88 sniper rifle, and put it on the ground, and said, "Try to fire a shot." "Can I?" Zyrozuji said in astonishment. Jun Changxiao said, "If your body can control it, this sniper rifle is yours." The system reminded, although the disciple can use the sniper rifle, the function of the magic modified 8-fold scope can only be triggered by the host. So fucked. Jun Changxiao frowned. In his mind, since Zyrozuji could not open his meridians, and could not gather spiritual power, he would train him to be a sniper. After all, his body was strong, and he should have no problem with withstanding the recoil. Now, the magic modified 8-fold locking, automatic aiming, perspective and other functions, the disciple could not trigger them, so how could he be able to hit the target every time? Zyrozuji breathed a sigh of relief, and walked to the 88 type sniper rifle, obviously wanting to try it out. Jun Changxiao personally guided him to hold the gun, set the gun, and get close to the 8-fold realm, and explained the range, rate of fire, and wind speed to him, saying, "Do you understand?" "I understand. Break the small stone a few hundred feet ahead." As he spoke, Jun Changxiao had already dodged far away, fearing that the recoil generated by the gun would implicate him. Swish. Zyrozuji lay down, holding the gun with one hand, the end of the gun handle against his shoulder, one eye against the lens, and after some proofreading, he immediately pulled the trigger. Bang, the muzzle of the gun spewed fire, and it shot out like a stream of light from a cannonball, hitting a small rock more than 500 meters away with incredible accuracy, and shattered it. So accurate? Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. When he retracted his gaze and looked at Zyrozuji, he found that the gun was there, and the soil under the tripod was dented. The guy disappeared out of thin air. "Where is he? Where is he? Master, master." Zyrozuji was hanging on a branch of a tree more than 10 meters behind him, foaming at the mouth, and said weakly, "Disciple, disciple is here. P.S. Thanks to Feng. 182 asterisk 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 54 132 asterisk 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 0262 and Lizumi, Mobei, and Chichen for the rewards. Please recommend." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.